Uh, there we go. I'm live on there.
Off.
Should be going live. There we go. Should be going live. All right. Seems like we are good. So 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, internet peeps. Welcome to another edition. I almost said our other podcast, but the Nemesis Project. We are here doing Resident Evil Village, or however you want to put it. There's Biohazard Village. It's weird how they do it because the village has the Roman numeral 9 in there, and Resident Evil. But here we are. This
Eight. It's actually Roman numeral 8.
8. My bad. 9. Jesus Christ. I'm already thinking about 9. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about the new addition to the Resident Evil franchise, which is Resident Evil 8 Village. I'm Joe Dubs.
And I'm Zach.
And this is kind of a surprise because we just did Resident Evil 6 not too long ago. I want to say like a month ago, maybe. I think
it was real early May or late April we put it out.
Yeah, so now we are doing Resident Evil Village. So let's get straight into the dirty. We're gonna do the intro, which is the development of Resident Evil 8. Do you have anything on this? Because the only thing I know is that the actress who plays Lady Dimitrescu, I can't even say her name. Dimitrescu. She passed away right before this game launched. So
no, not her. That was
the daughter.
One of the daughters. Yeah, I forget which one actually off the top of my head. Because no, the person that played Lady D, she's been kind of all over the internet, enjoying some fame off that character a little bit.
Even though she was like in the game for like maybe a quarter.
Yeah, we get into that a little later. Mm-hmm. but yeah, Jeanette Mouse, I think was her name, and she played Cassandra or Daniela, one of them, I think, one of those two. And yeah, she passed away from, I think she had like some kind of like cancer or something that happened real fast. And yeah, it kind of sucked. Seemed like everybody really liked her.
Yeah, well, Capcom made it. I mean, obviously they'll make a big deal since they worked with her for a while.
Yeah.
But like she got a tweet and everything, and like everybody praised her, even everybody that worked with her. So that's well, it's not cool that she died, but it's cool that they did it kind of like a memorial for her, which was really nice to see.
Yeah. I do have some other stuff about the development of the game. Some of this is a little surprising.
Okay.
The fact that it really had been in development for like 3.5 years before it got announced last year in June. And that means it was still in development while they were working on Resident Evil 7. Like it started when Resident Evil 7 was almost finished.
Really?
Yeah. And back then when they were working on it, they weren't even thinking about it really connecting to 7. And then when 7 came out and it got, positively received for the most part, they're like, okay, I guess we'll go ahead and connect it to 7.
So I guess that kind of, because my friend Steve, my friends from New York, Steve and Ted, we all played it in the same weekend and beat it. And my friend Steve brought up a good point. He's like, it's like they beta tested 7 just to see if people digged, first person and, bringing back elements that were kind of Resident Evil, which is kind of interesting, by the way, which I want to get into, is that Resident Evil 7 is such a different game compared to Resident Evil 8 by a lot, I want to say, because 7 mixes this first person view with the elements of what Resident Evil is good at, such as the horror, the gore, and all that. And then you have like the crate system, you have the inventory system, you have the save. I mean, even though the 8 has the save, you don't have the old school inventory crates and all that. So you definitely see that 7 was messing around with the with gameplays and shit, like beta testing in a way. And 8 obviously is just the different route, and they just like somehow connected 7 with it.
I feel like, I don't know, in 7 they were really making an attempt to, it's first person view, but it was an attempt to try to kind of go back to like what made Resident Evil what it was to begin with. Sort of a return to form. Some people get really hung up on the fact that it was in first person, but I still say it was probably the most Resident Evil like game we got since, like, I guess Resident Evil 0.
Mm-hmm.
And or most classic, like, I guess, in sensibilities. And this game takes more cues from Resident Evil 4.
And Silent Hill.
Somewhat. I'm not real sure about that.
Well, the Benevito house is like the only Silent Hill, because it gets very PT in there. But we'll get into that later. But it does like a mixture. Like, it kind of feels like a mixtape if you think about it. Resident Evil 8. It's like, all right, so we got. I'm gonna call her Lady D because I'm gonna butcher her fucking name throughout the whole thing.
Just call her Lady D.
Yeah,
that's what everybody else does.
Lady D. Like, people loved Mr. X, right? And some people
hated Mr. X.
Yeah, and some people, hated or liked, Nemesis. So they're just like, we need something that's gonna be like that. And then you have Lady D. But I will say, like, Mr. X and Nemesis was more of a threat than Lady D, in my opinion. The first time, seeing her, I was like, okay, she does go quick. She has the Freddy Krueger fucking claws and shit, the Wolverine claws, but you could outmaneuver, and obviously you can outmaneuver Nemesis and Mr. X, but I feel like they were more scarier than Lady D. Lady D was sexualized before the game came out.
It's just part of her design, really.
Yeah, and I hate to say this because we actually had a discussion about this on Big Trouble with the Alloy and shit in Horizon, where it's like she's not pretty enough or whatever. I didn't say she was not pretty enough. I just said she had fat cheeks, but I digress on that. But like Lady D was very sexualized before this game came out. So like when I saw her chasing me, I was like, wasn't scared. I was like, look at those big bobas and butts and stuff. That's all I kept on thinking about.
She's scarier when you play on a higher difficulty level, which is some more gameplay stuff we can get into later.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just play it on normal, she's not all that much of a threat. Whereas when you crank up the difficulty, everything becomes more of a threat. And there's some artificial kind of stuff that goes into that, a smidge, but we'll get to that in a little bit. As for more of this development stuff, it seemed like they had this whole idea for like takes place in Europe and Village and all that kind of stuff. They had all that set up before RE7 came out and even got the reception it got. And it seemed like they wanted there to be more kind of free-form play, which that kind of comes across. Like a lot of the areas in the game are bigger and stuff. They seem to talk about puzzles, but honestly, the puzzles in this game weren't really like that good, in my opinion. That was like one of the weak points of this game.
This is why I hate game journalism today, because like all I read in game journalism reviews were, some of them don't even finish or play the game before they review it. Uh, they go, the puzzles are, a little bit better than 7. And I'm going like, huh?
They aren't.
No, like 7 had better puzzles than 8. And like I'm playing and I'm like, what are you calling finding these mask puzzles and like putting the little ball in the little castles while you have to like unlock shit? Like that doesn't
Yeah,
count.
the ball labyrinth. No, not really. Like, I've seen people complain about that bell puzzle, which is probably the hardest one besides an extra one you can do that's kind of off the beaten path.
I think it's lazy. I think that bell puzzle was lazy. Like
I've seen people complain about that, say it was obtuse and hard, and I'm like, not really. I mean, like, the only thing that was hard about it was just kind of like finding that one bell. It wasn't real obvious where it was at.
and
And it literally took me like a minute.
yeah.
I don't know. I think people are just babies about puzzles and they don't want to think that much.
Yeah.
That one off the beaten path puzzle I was talking about is you can kind of go back. Did you use the boat later on when you get the crank and you can kind of use it to like bring down like the drawbridges?
I didn't get to do that. I want to do that on my 3rd playthrough.
Okay, that unlocks some extra areas. It's nothing like real major, but you can spend a little bit of time getting some extra stuff and seeing a couple new areas. And you kind of sort of go back to the castle grounds in this underground passage, and there's like this puzzle with like, you know how you shoot these swinging lanterns that have fire and stuff, like you did that in Lady D's castle.
Mm-hmm.
They have one like that here, but there's like a torch you have to light, and there's no real obvious way to do it at first. It's like, what the hell? Because it's totally out of range of the weird swinging fire thing.
What I like about some of the like, because this game reminds me more of 4, and if you look at my ranking, I have 4 pretty deep because I'm like, I like the game, but it doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game to me. But like this game, it does the same thing as Resident Evil 4 does with all like the secret items and stuff. You have to find them throughout the whole map. It does that, and I enjoyed doing that, especially when you have to go find like the treasure chest and Benevito when you go back, because you find another item and there's this big dude with a fucking axe just waiting for you there. I love that touch.
Yeah, there's a little bit more like freeform backtracky kind of stuff in this. There's a little bit more of the old RE DNA in this game, even though they're kind of taking a lot of inspiration for 4. But this puzzle, I was going to say that the solution is there's, those weird zombies that come out in Lady D's castle in the basement.
Yeah.
One of them comes out of a crack in the wall and it just comes at you and you can just like kill it. And they just keep coming. They keep infinitely spawning. And it's like, what the hell? And then I accidentally hit her with the fire torch thing because it was in the same room and I was trying to shoot her. It caught her on fire. That doesn't kill her. And I'm like, oh, and you're supposed to lure her to the torch and it lights it up. I was like, oh, that was kind of clever, actually. That's the only puzzle I think that, like, if people discovered it, they wouldn't exactly know how to solve it.
So I got my since I brought up that my friend Steve said that like 7 was kind of like the beta to what 8 is now, right? Do you think 8 is the kind of feeling out the audience before they do RE4 remake? Now people want that, I understand that, but do you think like this game is like feeding off to like, hey, do they really want this? And they're kind of doing that because it does have the same tempo, it feels, because you have Duke, who's kind of like the merchant, and then you have
case inventory, yeah, all that kind of stuff. You're finding treasures. You sort of found stuff at the Baker estate, but it wasn't like that where you're finding random, valuable objects. Like I found a golden beer stein, like crusted with gems and shit. Yeah, that's not like the stuff that you found there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you sell it for money.
Yeah, you don't see like a gem that's like stuck in a wall and you're just like, oh, I gotta shoot that in 7. In 7, you're more like, I need to get the fuck out of this house. I need to find my wife and I need to go.
And I need to find a coin so I can get that magnum later.
Yeah, that too.
But, I think there some of that is calculated a little bit, where like when they figured out, oh, we're going to do an RE4 remake, and then maybe when they decided to do that, they also decided to take a few cues from that game to help, like it'll piggyback off of that game kind of thing.
Because you remember my demeanor every time we had news about like Resident Evil Village and stuff? We're just like, oh, there's gonna be a witch that's gonna be following you. Oh, there's gonna be werewolves and stuff. And they did it pretty well to the point where it wasn't too hokey. I mean, Lady D was hokey and sexualized, but it felt right in a way. It was weird.
It was like I said, I'm not one of those guys, but I'm gonna say I was right. They're gonna do it with like virus parasite bullshit, and it's all like it's just a facade.
Yeah, and when we get into the story of this, by God, I think what made me, and I'm kind of putting this game over already. I'm not going to tell you what the rank is, but what really put me over in this game is that they linked this felt like a prequel, but it's a sequel. You know what I mean? When we get to the story, to the part with Mother Miranda and what you find out about her and who she's been talking to and who made a certain virus and all that stuff. Like after I got past that scene and what happened, and connecting Ethan to what was connecting 7 to 8 was really impressive for me as a Resident Evil franchise, because when's the last time where we were excited to be like, oh, Resident Evil, this Resident Evil game and the next Resident Evil game, I'm excited because they're connected. Like Resident Evil 1 and 2 was fucking cool because it's like, you're in a mansion, there's Jill Valentine, there's Chris Redfield, oh, and here's Resident Evil 2 with Leon and Claire Redfield. Claire is, the sister to Chris. And you're just like, that's amazing. It's kind of continuing the story, but telling another story. And this game is it's a direct sequel from the last Resident Evil game. We haven't had this in a long time.
No, there's always like real big time skips and shit.
Mm-hmm.
They quit doing that, building upon what the last game did, like with Code Veronica. That was like the last one that did it, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I digress. The only other kind of stuff I could really say about the development is, well, actually that was pretty much it. It got held up when there was the pandemic was going on a little bit, and they even said they had to halt progress for a month totally.
Really?
Yeah, which that's not as long as I thought it would be.
No.
They were gonna lean more into doing like stuff with witches, and then they changed their mind. And they're like, no, let's just do vampires instead, and you can see where that goes.
Well, did you hear that Ada Wong was supposed to be in the story? Like she was.
Yeah, I heard about that, and there was like concept art for her even, and it looks cool. There's a couple cut elements from this game, and some content that was cut, and there was some stuff they shifted around, and there's some developments I think that happened real late in the development of the game, and I think it shows in some cases, like with the story. Like they didn't come up with Mother Miranda apparently until like last year.
Really?
Yeah. And like I feel like it kind of shows in the story, because that's, to me, that's one of the things that's weak about the game is her.
She I mean, we'll get into it, but I think she's interesting because of what we learn later on. But then that just opens a lot of like doors for me to be like, okay, I want to learn about her more now. Can we get DLC on her? Before Resident Evil Village, or even like maybe during the times when she's talking to and I'm hiding the person until we get to the story. But like, imagine if we get to experience something where she's trying to like do her experiments, and like you make a story out of it, and you just like shooing somebody in there, kind of like a Resident Evil Gun Survivor kind of thing. And it just had this like guy who doesn't know where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
Die, Vincent, die. But I feel like she's interesting, but then Ethan becomes interesting, and then Rose becomes interesting. What they did with 7 into 8 now opens a lot of more doors that they could build pretty much a franchise off of it a little bit. Even though Resident Evil is a franchise, but now you can build a franchise around these types of characters: Chris Redfield, Rose, Mia, and all that.
Another continuous story instead of like self-contained stories that take place after the last big self-contained story.
Yeah.
Of course, at the end of this game, who knows where the fuck it's gonna go at this point.
I'm a little worried.
I am too, actually.
Because I've always been a thing about, you can't get too hokey with like powers and stuff, right?
We're tipping our hand a little bit, I think, right now.
Yeah. So let's save this for story.
Yeah. Oh yeah, acting changes real quick. There's only one.
Chris.
It's just Chris. What's his name? Let me pull it up here. Jeff Shine, I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know, he's Carlos in Resident Evil 3 Remake.
Yeah. Like I said before we came on the air, I remember hearing some time back he was going to play Chris in this, and I forgot completely. And then when I was playing the game and he appears in it more later, I was like, oh my god, that's the dude who plays Carlos, and he's not even really trying to sound all that different.
Yeah, ever since I heard his voice, like in the, not even the trailer, you don't hear it enough in the trailer, but when you play the game, like, you're just like, oh my god, it's Carlos. And every time he speaks, you're just like, god damn it, it's like you're mixing Carlos with Chris now. And I don't know, it throws me off all the time, especially when you get towards the factory before the Heisenberg and all that stuff, and like he's explaining what's going on. I'm just like, yes, Carlos, yes. I mean, Chris.
I don't dislike it. It feels a little like, really, because they just had him play a whole other role in the last game that came out last year. It feels like a long time ago now, just because of a lot of things, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I want to say, I think he's probably the only guy in this entire series that has played 2 different characters, like main characters in a game at this point. Just because of that weird casting idea or whatever. Because I can't remember anybody else ever say, like, oh, I played Claire and then I played Annette. That never happened. I played Claire and then I played Sheva.
Yeah, you're right. Everybody's, I mean, the only thing I ever heard was like Nick Apostolides being like, I played Leon in the Resident Evil 2 remake and now in Infinite Darkness. That's about like...
He's still playing Leon. It's recurring.
Yeah.
But I can't ever... I tried to sit there and think about it, and I'm like, no. I mean, the only other thing people could say is like, they did like extra voices, like the self-destruct sequence has been activated, and that random guy that got killed, or just extras, stuff that doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting and kind of a weird thing about this game.
Yeah, it definitely what do you call it? It definitely makes me like that people are finding jobs during all this time, and I think that's probably played a factor. Be like, All right, we're short on money. um, this guy did Carlos, right?
Maybe
Maybe,
they just like Jeff so much they wanted him to come back and do another thing. I don't
maybe,
know.
maybe it was
Uh,
business. I don't know.
it, it's fine. I like it. Anyway, he's good. I just wish they'd pick one role because I feel like you can't really do that with this franchise this late into the life cycle of video games as a medium. I don't think you can get away with shit like that anymore.
Hmm.
This feels like shit people would be doing like 25 years ago during like PlayStation era. um, but yeah, it's not really that big of a deal. So I guess let's get on with the big meaty fleshy bits.
The meaty fleshy bits. General gameplay and design discussion.
Yeah.
Um, shooting, shooting kind of felt a little similar to seven, but I feel like things change. I mean, obviously the blocking technique has changed. Like you could block off and push back enemies and stuff, so that's different. The shooting itself felt really similar to seven. Um, I enjoy all the guns that were in the game. Um, I
Yep.
think even though you get to buy like machine guns later on and stuff, it's still pretty hard to get.
I like that that's you get that stuff later
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of something the old games used to do a little bit. Well, like when you played Resident Evil 1, it was like, God damn, I wish I could get a machine gun, and you never got one.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you bought it for PC, because there is a machine gun on that version of the game. Talking like the old version of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Um, but then in Resident Evil 2, you can get to that point in the game in the police station where you can get a Mac 10, and that kind of fulfills that wish a little bit. But both characters can't have it. Um, but yeah, I like that they have a lot of unlockable stuff like after you finish the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's in the same vein of like what they just did with Resident Evil 3, where it's like you finish it and then you can unlock a bunch of extra weapons and
Game
stuff.
modes.
Yeah, game modes from you doing things in the game as that are like achievements, but you actually got something out of it besides an achievement,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of interesting. I don't know why game developers don't really try to look into doing stuff like that more. Like everybody has to have achievements now, but they're just achievements.
Yeah.
These are actually tied to getting you points to unlock stuff in the game.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, you need to like kill 10 zombies and you get like a nice trophy or an achievement gamer score points. This is like straight up, if you do a challenge, you get rewarded with something. And I like that this game still does that, this franchise at least, because it's so nice to do something and be rewarded or get something out of it instead of just feeling high and mighty that you got more points and more trophies than your friends or family. It's like, who cares?
Instead of stroking your internet penis, you actually can buy guns or concept art, and the concept art in this game is actually really interesting because there's a bunch of notes about it.
Hmm.
Like each one, almost each piece of art has like some kind of note from the artist about like what they were doing or what they were going for with this. It's really cool.
And the what do you call it, the when you unlock stuff, you also get like the behind the scenes of like all the motion capture stuff that they do where they act it
Exactly.
out. And I really like that because that's I'm into that shit. Like ever since Last of Us did it, where you get to see like how they act with the motion suits on. I was like, I really did dig that, and I think more games should do that, just so we can connect with the actors and actresses, and be like, hey, that was pretty cool, and especially when you see someone being like the more DC, is that his name? The fat,
uh the fish guy,
yeah,
Moreau, yeah.
Moreau, with him and like Benevito, like they're acting and they're all silly looking while they're acting it. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, Capcom's done this before actually with like Devil May Cry 5. They have it where you can like unlock uh they're not really the mocap scenes, but it's like the staff sort of live storyboarding, acting out like what's supposed to happen in a cutscene, and it's kind of comical
Mm-hmm.
because you have like a guy that's supposed to be like a bird demon, and it's just a dude flapping these fake wings. like one of the office people or something, and then you have a guy acting like Nero, and he's trying to be like a cool anime demon hunter character and shit, but it's just like a Japanese guy at the office. it's just it's kind of fun. I think they've caught on that people are really interested in like the acting and the mocap and stuff from the last 2 games that have come out,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, okay, we'll start putting this in the game, I guess. And yeah, I haven't watched that yet. I've just seen little snippets of stuff online.
No.
But
I-
go ahead.
Another thing I like about the gameplay in this game is like when you play 4, right? And if you play any like Resident Evil game that's more action oriented, you're just like, oh, all you have to do is just buy bullets and stuff. But there's a point in this game where even when you are going to Duke and you are killing all the, the I call them mini bosses when you get like the skulls and stuff that you could sell for a lot. Like even when you like gather all that money, he's still out of stock, so you still have to conserve your ammo, which is really interesting, and
Yeah.
I digged about that as well.
I noticed. I do want to say real quick, Resident Evil 4, you couldn't buy bullets. You had to rely on drops.
Mm.
But it's just the game supplied you with enough stuff that you never, and you get all those guns, so you're rotating all this ammo. As long as you're not terrible, you'll never really run out of ammo.
Yeah.
But in this game, yeah, there was actually a supply, and especially the first time you play, you get kind of low a little bit at certain points.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed, like when I played hardcore, he has a bigger stock of ammo for you, and even the health, the healing jelly, the bottles of healing juice. He had very super limited quantities of that. Like you can only buy one once in a while from him. But in hardcore, you can buy as many as you want. But the thing is they continually increase in price each time you buy one. And it's like not at first, it's like the first one you buy off of them is like 10,000. And then it goes up to 20 and then 30. So it climbs and it gets kind of expensive if you keep having to rely on that.
Yeah. And there was I guess a little thing. I mean, I understand why they do it. Most games do it. Even in the past, like when you get to a boss battle, because then you just start to see like fucking bullets everywhere.
Yeah, there's a bunch of pickups and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I get that nostalgia factor when that happens, but I kind of wish, for challenge sake, that they don't supply you with bullets, because when you fight Lady D at the last form of her, I guess, whatever that thing was, like you're just like, with all the bullets he gave you, you kind of can beat her. But what happens if you don't get to that pile? You're
probably fucked.
You're probably fucked. And that's one thing I kind of want to put a negative on. By the way, Golden Diver, thank you for the raid of 3 people. I appreciate you. But the one thing I want to kind of say about Resident Evil 8, because 7, I think you could use a knife. You could knife people in the boss battle. All of them, I think. I believe so.
It feels really suicidal in that game, but yeah.
Yeah. But in 8, there is no way to knife Lady D when she's on top of whatever dog thing that she's on or whatever.
Or she's flying and
Yeah.
you can't hit her. Yeah. I feel, again, that's going to chalk up to like, you'll be fine unless you're totally awful at this game.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, you should be playing easy mode.
Yeah, which I think is everything is balanced out pretty well to be like, hey, if you're a noob, You can play easy, and if you're just into the story, you can do that. Normal kind of picks up the pace a little bit. Hardcore and Village of the Shadow, yeah, craziness. If you're not playing New Game Plus, by the way, I think if anybody who played Hardcore or Village of the, is it the player or the town, whatever, the Shadows of the Village, I always fuck that up. I'm sorry, but like those people that play it vanilla, it's just like wow, because that first scene where you're going into the town and all the lichens are chasing you, and it's kind of like the Resident Evil 4 where you have to just survive until bingo happens.
Yeah. Where everybody going, bingo?
Yeah. So I think they balanced out the difficulty well. Because even on normal, there were times where I'm just like, wow, this is kind of getting overwhelming, especially when you get to the stronghold area.
Yeah, there's a couple points in that where like you really need to try to just get out of the situation you're in instead of just fighting, because you can just set yourself up for failure if you keep fighting. Normal, I did feel like was pretty balanced. I've heard some people say they thought it was easy, and they had like a ton of ammo all the time. I didn't have a ton of ammo all the time. I would fluctuate. I would have points where I'd use a lot, then I'd have points where I'd have saved up a bunch. It fluctuated for me. But these people that say normal is easy, it did feel a little easy for the most part, I think. But it's just like, oh, it's easy, it's nothing. I feel like these are the people that can play hardcore fresh, like on a fresh file, and just get through the ambush. I tried to do that 12 times, and I just could not fucking do it. Apparently, there's like there's a formula to it or something. I tried to fucking do it, and I still couldn't do it. And that's what I just said. Fuck it, and I just did a New Game Plus for hardcore.
Yeah, and there's a part. There's a strategy I did on normal in that area where I just went on the roof and I just kept on circling. Every time they came up, I shot them, but then I noticed like more were spawning in. So I'm like, all right, I need to get out of here, and I go down the road, and then you see like that. I guess bigger werewolf person. And the guy with the big axe coming at you. The guy who looks like he's in the movies Cats or something. He comes chasing you. But yeah, another thing we could bring up is the crafting system. That's new. As far as from 7 to 8.
It's not too bad in this game. I feel like crafting is like something everybody feels like they have to add to all their games now. Ever since, I don't know what game really popularized it. Was it Last of Us? Because there was crafting shit before Last of Us.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of RPGs back in the day did crafting.
I know, but it didn't like spread to like all the other games like that. They kind of stayed in RPGs. Or was it Assassin's Creed? Or no, Far Cry is what I'm thinking of.
Far Cry might be the one that like kind of messed around with crafting. But Steve in chat says I would put my money on Last of Us really cementing it, which I think you said Last of Us. So like that's
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's the winner right there. But it's not like hard crafting. It's not like where you have to, like with Minecraft, where you have to be like, oh, I need this wood with this type of item to make like a shelf. It's kind of like, oh, you got these gears or whatever leftover metal and stuff. And
what I don't like about crafting, and this is what is when it feels lazy. Like there's, we gotta add this in, and it's like some kind of bullshit to like artificially lengthen the game or something. So something to trick your dumb gamer brain into like obsessively clinging to a game mechanic. Like I have to do this because I'm trained to.
I didn't really I mean, the only thing that I cling to it with the crafting, and it wasn't like I was like, oh man, I gotta be perfect with this and get these type of items. I would just go, oh shit, I'm running low out of ammo. let me go get more ammo and craft it, I guess.
No, I was gonna say it's fine in this game because it's not really made like that. It's basically just like anytime you're just looking for bullets, or you're searching the environment, because if you're playing a Resident Evil game, you've already been trained a really long time ago to search the environment for resources. That's already something that's like hard wired into the game. Uh, you just happen to find stuff like gunpowder, or the only thing that seems to be kind of scarce is herbs,
Yes.
or herbs, I should say. Everything else seems pretty easy to find. You just find gunpowder, scrap metal, whatever the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, you kind of get it just by happenstance of looking for other supplies. So it's not like you're wasting a bunch of time looking at every nook and cranny, like for specifically this stuff exactly.
Do you think that they should have made it difficult to the part where all that stuff that you were grabbing was going into your actual inventory space, where it made you have to do management a little bit more?
Maybe because they do it with the meat, which I think is really weird. Like, I don't know why they decided to do it with the meat, and especially because like certain one, like they just call it meat. There's poultry, fish, and meat, which you get from like pigs and goats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by the way, you hunt animals in this game. You don't really hunt animals. It's not like fucking Tomb Raider or something. But like, you'll run around the environment and see a goat, and then because the Duke's like, oh, by the way, I could cook food for you, and it'll make you like, stronger, you can take more damage, or you can run faster and shit. So it's like, oh yeah, I want to be able to do all those things. So of course you want to try to get this shit.
Yeah, and it makes you want to get it. I still think it's funny that he eats most of it and like gives you leftover shit, kind of.
Well, he says, food is life, and to hunger is to be alive.
Mm-hmm. Would you think of the Duke's voice acting? I really liked him.
Yeah, he was great. Whoever played him was great. He's like, it's funny because he strikes this balance of like, he's this jolly, jovial, fat merchant guy. He's like, it's weird because he's really fucking corpulent. He's like enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Like a normal person shouldn't be this big.
And he moves around the map like quickly and shit. Like he'll show up in Lady D's fucking like walk-in closet area or like storage room. He's just sitting there on a little tiny fucking desk.
Well, apparently he had like a room in her castle, because remember, she would meet him for business discussions. He was in her
guest book.
Her guest book, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was legit. But like, he's kind of like the merchant Resident Evil 4. I know there's that theory. I'm not saying like, oh, this is a major Resident Evil fan theory that's super serious or anything like that. But like that, it's multiple merchants in Resident Evil 4. I don't think that. I think it's just the same merchant.
I think that he might have been a Mother Miranda experiment.
I think so too, because like, you ever watch him sometimes when you just like you're going to visit him and you notice sometimes he's doing something, like he's idle animating something, like he's reading a book or he's like smoking a cigar or whatever. There's some times where he's like looking at his hand, like he's just like staring at it like he's never seen his hand before. It's really strange.
Well, I mean, we're gonna get to it later, but he brings up a point to Ethan. He's like, your world has changed and stuff, and you think you're going back to the normal world. Well, think again, and you're just like, what does that even mean? And
that's what I was gonna say about this guy's performance. Is like, he really comes across like he knows something you don't, but he never really tells you, like the entire time, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And he might, and it does seem like, yeah, he has some kind of stake in what's going on, but he never lets on what that is either.
Steve says he wasn't just fat; he was physically just massive, and so there had to be something going on there.
Yeah. I don't know, because he's gross. Like, if you haven't played the game yet, fucking go type in the Duke RE8 in Google, and you'll see.
Yeah. you just see his like bottom of his belly just fucking coming out of his shirt and shit when he just like rolls out. Which, by the way, he's being strolled by one strong horse. So
I don't think those are horses; those are donkeys. Do you have any other gameplay points or things?
I'm trying to think.
Was there anything you didn't like besides the puzzles being weak? Because we agree on that.
Yeah, the puzzles were weak. The puzzles were probably the most like laziest ones, especially when you get to Benevito's house, because you're just like, wait, I gotta take the film and match it whatever it says on the desk. What type of puzzle is that? Or the only other like, I guess the only other good puzzle was the music box, which was kind of annoying and hard because you would think the cracks lined up and it didn't, and I had to try that a couple of times. And
it was like you have to get two different cracks to line up together instead of just like I know at first you're thinking, because I did the same thing. It was like all these cracks line up. No, they're two different sets of cracks, and they both have to line up with their own separate cracks.
Yep. So you had that going on. Trying to think. The journal entries were cool to read. I think this was better than...
They were like 7.
Yeah, they were like 7.
7 was kind of taking things back to the older games a little bit.
And Steve says, I would like to see more puzzles. It just felt like once you finish Benevito's, it's just straight shooter from that point, with the small puzzle here and there, which I agree on that.
The puzzles are mostly non-existent. It's all like they either have the solution to the puzzle in the memo in that room, or you're just supposed to take something and take it somewhere else. And there's been that kind of stuff in all these games, but those are called key items. You're supposed to find a key item and take it to something to unlock something. Yeah, that's not a puzzle.
Yeah, there was other puzzles, like you had a member in the town and stuff where like there's a picture, but like don't look out the window, and then there was a lichen, but then you like noticed there was like numbers throughout that whole like yard and shit.
It was like, okay, it's all right there. And then that was like when you unlock that musician guy's house, when you get his key. It's the same thing. There's like a picture. There's like somebody drew, like some kid drew a picture of him. Maybe it's like her dad or some shit. And it's got like a birthday on it.
Oh, that's what I want to bring up. That part kind of pissed me off a little bit because like you learn to open up the gate, right? And you're just like, wow, I'm in this area that was locked before, but now since somehow I was able to shoot it or whatever, or learn how to shoot it. And then you're like, you go to the house and that is locked. And then you're just like, how do I get in this house and why? Because I literally sniffed out that yard because I was like, oh, maybe it's under there's like a crevice under the house or something where the gardener leaves the key. So I was like looking throughout the whole area over there.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? Fuck this house. Because like maybe it's like I get some stupid item, which... Again, when you find his key and then you go to the house, it's really nothing that big.
It's I think it was a gun.
Was it?
I think it was I can't remember now exactly because everything's changed when you play it on hardcore and you play in New Game Plus. Because wherever you would find a gun, you just get like a bunch of money. And it was a large sum of money, so I think it was a gun that time. I think it was like a shotgun or something.
Oh, you might have been right. The new the auto, not an auto shotty, but like I forgot. It's an upgraded shotty than the one you have. I actually like the first shotty more than the new one that you find down the road.
They're all three good. I like the first one just because of how it looks.
Yeah, well, I like it because it looks and because you can upgrade it and stuff.
I like the grenade launcher in this game. That's fucking ridiculous. It's literally like an M79 grenade launcher, but like somebody intricately carved the stock of there being like a woodland creature on it, like it's a deer or something and shit, and it's got like this ornate brass plating and stuff. It's fucking ridiculous. I love it.
I love how you can flash people with the flash grenade, with the grenade launcher. I love that. the best part of that. Um, Trying to think what else gameplay wise. I yeah, I think I'm out of gameplay stuff to talk about, right?
I got a couple things here.
Okay, you go.
Like we mostly talk. We just got to talk about the merchant and upgradable weapons, all that stuff. I will say this game feels like they're kind of doing the same structure a little bit as RE7 in terms of like your progression, like what you traversing the environments of the game. It's like the whole area in RE7, the Baker property, was kind of a hub area, sort of.
Mhm.
Sort of like how the mansion is a hub area or the police station is a hub for all these small rooms and the basement and shit like that. This is bigger. It's a bigger version of that where it's like the village it is the hub, really.
Mhm.
And then you go to these other areas that some of them are their own hub areas, like the castle and Heisenberg's factory.
Yeah,
And then some of them aren't.
yeah, it kind of feels like it's open world, right?
A
But
little bit, yeah.
but it's not.
Yeah.
Because once you, I mean, there's areas that you get locked into. Like when you go to like a new lord, you're kind of in a linear path, but then you
You're trapped in their area.
hmm
And that's another thing they followed from RE7 was like each antagonist had their own area designed around them.
And I like that because you know, as much as I sometimes like open world, I like being on a path where it pushes me towards the danger. I mean, they could.
I'm really picky about open world design. Like I'm not as big of a fan of it as other people are. It seems like that's a lot of people like it.
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of the times it's lazy. It's a crutch. It's just like, let's put a bunch of shit in a giant world and then there it is. And just fucking they'll figure it out. That's like the Western game design philosophy for the most part now.
Well, it's like Resident Evil 3 remake. Like if I had any game to choose open world, it would be that game. Because if you have Nemesis who's always gonna like torture you, like that would be the perfect thing because you're searching through Raccoon City and all of a sudden just fucking Nemesis just fucking elbow drops you from a fucking skyscraper. And that would be fucking, cool and shit. But
that's what we wanted, and that's what we were kind of led to believe was going to happen, and it didn't. But
yeah, go watch our Resident Evil 3 remake review. It's on our YouTube channel.
We don't hate it or anything. It's just disappointing.
It's underwhelming, but it's okay.
Yeah. Talked about here's another thing I thought was weak was the bosses in this game.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just dodging attacks and then hitting them. And some of them have weak points, and that's a common criticism throughout this entire series. Though, is like bosses are usually not that complex or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to say I feel like when I played Resident Evil 7, like all the bosses really felt like a fucking event or something. And like, you have the crazy chainsaw fight with fucking Daddy Baker. I forget his first name now. And the weird centipede, like Marguerite turns into that weird fucking centipede monster and it's creepy as shit.
Yeah, 7, to kind of like compare and contrast a little bit, with 7, the variety of the mold monsters I was never high on. The boss
there was low variety with like the general monsters.
Yeah, the bosses in 7 I appreciate because my best fight Jack when you are in the garage, funniest fucking scene in the world when you're running him over with the car. And
it's crazy too. Yeah, it's just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, you get a lot of that when you're playing Resident Evil 7. You're like, what the fuck?
Which is funny, by the way, because we're doing Resident Evil 8 right now, and our next game is Resident Evil 7. So
Doing it backwards.
yeah, we're doing it backwards because it's, this game just came out and shit. So, but like you have that garage scene, and then you have, when you're fighting him with the chainsaws and shit.
It's fucking nuts. I still was like, I said when I was doing that, I was like, I can't believe I'm fighting a guy with a chainsaw in this game.
Yeah. It kind of felt like Doom a little bit when you get to that part.
Yeah, somewhat. And that was one of the main strengths of that game, was how it kept throwing you in these situations that were just fucking crazy. And it was really taking advantage of like that first person perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like to really jar you, Like a lot of people don't really do that with horror games. It's usually just fucking jump scares and shit.
Yeah, in this game, in 8, the variety of monsters that you fight are way better than 7.
Yeah, it kind of lops. You get the opposite effect.
Yeah,
I feel like, because like we're complimenting a lot of the bosses and stuff in 7, but in 8 they're kind of like, Like,
yeah.
The only ones like Donna Biavito, it doesn't really feel like a boss fight.
No.
It's more like I wouldn't even call it a puzzle. I don't know. It's more like hide and seek.
Yeah, it's not a puzzle. That's why I say. I mean, even Silent Hill has their boss battles too, but like
they're not really all that great either. It's literally just shoot somebody until they fucking die.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
But like the Benevito house had more of the Silent Hill touch to it, where you're just like you're uneasy, right? Because you're in this house full of dolls and you don't know where she's at, and if you take too much time, those dolls will attack you.
To me, that felt more like sort of what was going on in Resident Evil 7. In Resident Evil 7, you did have more of a feeling of unease. Now, it wasn't like hallucinations and shit and stuff like that, but you still felt like creeped out because you didn't know what the fuck was about to happen, what you were about to find next. That was just gonna, you totally didn't expect from this game or anything.
Yeah, and I guess if I had to rank the boss battles, right, starting from the last one, the last one I would say is Benevito. So you have Benevito, then I would have Lady D, because it wasn't, I mean, you're pretty much shooting her out of the sky and then like moving left to the right like you're doing a fucking line dance at a country concert pretty much until you shoot her. And then Moreau, I think, was pretty good. And the only reason why I put Heisenberg a little bit higher is because it's a fucking Metal Gear fucking thing going on.
It's something crazy like what I was just talking about. It's like all of a sudden you're having a tank battle with Heisenberg. It turns into like a giant
mech
monster.
Yeah.
He turns into he becomes more machine than man now. And
obviously sorry to cut you off. And obviously Mother Miranda. I mean, you can still talk about Heisenberg, but Mother Miranda is like my number one.
I kind of like I don't know. I like the spectacle of the fight with Heisenberg, but with Mother Miranda, it was literally just, she has 3 forms and you just fucking shoot her.
Yeah.
There's not even a weak point. You just shoot her.
True.
Basically. Okay, when I played it in normal, and one of my other friends had just finished around the same time as me or something, and we were talking about the last boss fight, and he was like, did you figure out you could shoot those little orbs she makes when she's flying around the sky and she launches them at you like those fucking weird fireballs or whatever that was?
Oh, the mucus fireballs?
Yeah. And I was like, no, I didn't know you could do that. I just fucking shot her until she died. I'm not lying. That's what I did. It worked.
Yeah, I mean, I think the story kind of like made me get hype with Mother Miranda, because like the part where like Ethan's like screaming at her, he's like, "That's my baby. You can't be her mother. What the hell are you doing?" And you're just like shooting her and you're doing the flash. Like, I think I got caught up in the story a little bit more. Heisenberg, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Why am
It's
I
just
in this tank?
bonkers. Yeah, it's just fucking crazy. And
Yeah.
I kind of like. I guess I want to give the edge to that because at least it was something really different.
And
You
it
know, like
and
yeah, I didn't expect to have a fucking Metal Gear tank fight in Resident Evil 8. So
yeah, there were two things in two bosses in this that had like the fuck me lights pretty much. Moreau had it because of his dumb belly, and Heisenberg had the joints and stuff that you had to shoot off.
he literally had glowing fuck me lights to shoot.
Yeah.
He literally did. We forgot one though. I think it's Urias or whatever the fuck, that giant werewolf fucker with the hammer. You fight
Oh
him in the
yeah, I
stronghold.
forgot about it.
But he's just another one that you just shoot until he fucking dies.
I put him under Heisenberg. So
I put him probably like. I guess I put him underneath. I don't even put him underneath Lady D because at least it was a spectacle. It was just like, oh my god, turn into a fucking dragon, and there is some scripted event kind of stuff that happens where it's like, holy shit, what is happening? Like she's breaking the buttresses of the castle and shit, and you're not sure if you're about to fall somewhere or whatever. It's kind of cool. There's stuff going on in that.
And I wouldn't count the daughters. I mean, maybe like mini boss battles, but it's just like you have to like put light on the daughters and just shoot them to death.
They're like fighting the Lycans with like the armor and the claws, or like those giant werewolf things that you need to kill with a grenade launcher or something. They're like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, special, stronger sub-boss enemies.
Yeah.
I
think I'm out of things to talk about unless you have something else.
I got a couple more things. I did feel like when I was playing Moreau's area, the lake, the fishing village, I got the feeling like when I was playing that, I was like, I feel like there's supposed to be more of this. Like I thought I was going to explore this area, and you don't. You just kind of rush through it at a certain point. You find out I need to like drop the sluice gate so I can drain all the water from the lake so he can't continue to be a giant the fish from Resident Evil 4. So that's what I have to do. And it turns into that. You have to go find a crank and you're just avoiding Moreau. You're avoiding being eaten.
I do have to say, again, remember like when you go back to Benevito's area and you see like the guy with the big axe, the same thing happens in Moreau's area where you're just like, oh, look at this big red barn. Let me see what's going on over here. And then you go in there and there's this big guy with a fucking axe chasing you, and then you have the Lycans that are coming after you as well.
No, that's another area. That's before you go to the stronghold. Remember? It's like when you go up to the stronghold area, the path branches.
Oh yeah, that's right. I mixed up.
That goes to like a mill or something. Yeah.
But that's another area where it's just like, wow, like I actually respect that a little bit more than the boss battle, because like you're in this area and it's like a puzzle. You have to like get not a puzzle, but like you have to get to the high ground, kind of like you know, as Obi-Wan with Anakin and shit. Anakin, I got the high ground.
It's really tight quarters, and this guy, like the first time you fight this an enemy like this, it's not the same guy. There's 2 or 3 humongous bald guys with fucking axes. I don't know how else to describe them because that's all that they aren't even like Lycans. It's weird.
They kind of look like Heisenberg's like creations a little bit.
I don't even think it's that. I don't know. They don't really explain what these guys are.
Well, that's why I think they need to, and hopefully we get to hear that in Capcom soon on their E3, because I think there's still a lot of story they could tell with Resident Evil 8.
There's some holes, some things go unexplained in my opinion. This is just a minor thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time you fight one of these guys, though, it's back at the Benevento area where the grave is, and it's just literally a big, not big, but it's a circle. You just fight in a circle around this grave.
Mm.
But here in the mill, it's like multi-tiered, and there's a bunch of shit in the middle, and it's hard to maneuver. It's really cramped, so it's kind of a tougher fight, especially because you got those weird flying fucking enemy things that are really annoying. They're more annoying than they are dangerous.
What, the bats?
Yeah, I found out they're actually a lot easier to kill with a knife than a fucking gun. It's almost a waste of time to bother with shooting them. It's a waste of time and bullets.
Well, yeah. I mean, remember when they give you the sniper rifle? They're like, here's a sniper rifle laying on a chair. And you're just like, and then you're just like, wow, what am I shooting long range? And then you see the bats. And if you were looking at my stream, every time I aimed my sniper rifle, I'm like, I'm gonna miss. Like, there's no point.
They do fly kind of in an erratic pattern. Honestly, the sniper rifle, you're better off just using it because I tried the same thing. And like, these things fly just too erratically. So I got to the point where I was like, I'm gonna wait till they get closer and try to just shoot them as I can. And that was hard too, just because of how they fly around. And then like you played hardcore. I did my new game plus. You can buy Chris's knife and that assault rifle. I didn't buy the assault rifle. The knife is actually way better than that. It has a double slash attack. It does more damage than the regular knife. And I was just like, all right, I'm gonna just try a knife and fuck it. And then like you kill him in like 2 or 3 slashes. I'm just like, that's it. You just fucking knife these bat figs. Fuck trying to shoot him.
Yeah, because Ethan's butter knife is just worthless sometimes.
I like how he could never get a better knife. He just found like a fucking knife stuck in a butcher's block in somebody's house and was like, that's it. That's the knife.
Not even that. He goes into the church before Lady D turns into a dragon, and like,
knife. I was like, are we gonna get this knife? And then it's like, no, it just fucking falls away and it falls down a fucking chasm.
I got really pissed and sad when that happened because I'm like, all right, I stabbed her, and like all of a sudden, like she just pushes it off her body and off your hand, and you lose the knife forever. And I was like, no.
I thought that was gonna be an unlockable, and it wasn't. I was a little disappointed.
Maybe they should add a DLC or something. I don't want to pay for it, but add it in there somehow.
Hey, Resident Evil 7 had free DLC. Maybe they'll do that.
Maybe. I guess.
Let's see. I was gonna say I did find out though that they did cut content from the lake in the fishing village area. You were supposed to spend more time in it, but it was cut due to time scheduling constraints. They were running out of time.
What do you think? You think they were gonna do a boat scene?
I think they were gonna let you explore more of that area in the boat. I feel like that was the impression I got when I got there. It's like, oh, I guess I'm gonna be able to fucking drive around this whole area in the boat, but I have to fucking not get eaten. That's what I thought they were gonna do. Kind of like in Resident Evil 4, they let you do that. Not here. And I will say, in terms of the way the game's paced, like how you progress through the game, it feels a bit uneven at times. Like, I felt like, and this after I played through it twice, I still believe this. I feel like the game sort of peaks in terms of you exploring and getting into an environment and everything at the castle, and it never really gets back to that.
Yeah, and I kind of want to bring this up because before this game came out, like Lady D and her daughters were like, you were thinking you were going into the game and like they were gonna be like the top tier bosses that you're gonna like face near the end.
Yeah, that's just the media they were putting out.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like, they're the first thing you encounter, and the first area that you encounter, and that's it, and it's done. And
it was a great area. That was the most fun I had, was in the castle, exploring the castle and doing all that stuff. But yeah, they did give off an impression like this is the main bad guy and shit, and we're not the only ones that thought that either. A bunch of people thought that.
Yeah, and I don't think it hurts the game, but the advertising, I felt like. And again, I guess this is where the development comes in, where Mother Miranda was like kind of shoot in there. last minute. So maybe they thought she couldn't be a good villain. Maybe Lady D.
I think is the opposite. My thing was I feel like they underestimated how people were going to respond to her. And yeah, some of it is meme and horn dogging and shit. And I'll admit I'm in that camp.
Oh yeah, me too.
A little bit, but like I think she could have been the main antagonist of this game because the actress was great that played her. I saw like of her, like somebody like fucked with the camera during certain cutscenes where you can like focus. They had like a free 4K or something. You can see like all her facial expressions and stuff, like you can't really see them because you're just Ethan, you're just looking. You see his, and she's just acting the entire time. She's just making all these facial expressions of stuff, the movement and shit. And she had like a kind of a charisma, you know. People like this villain character. You get that in certain things, with Darth Vader or Wesker or stuff like that.
Well, I had, it was kind of like a mixture for me, right? It kind of mixed the Weskerness where she had charisma just like Wesker, and it's kind of a mixture of a Mr. X because of how huge she is, and she's like chasing you throughout the whole.
But she's intelligent. She can talk, and she's got like, she can dictate to you. You get captured by her, basically.
Yeah, and another thing, like I thought she would be like a William Birkin kind of thing.
She's also smart.
Yes.
Did you notice? You know the part where you kind of eavesdrop on her when she's in her room and she makes that phone call?
Mm-hmm.
You ever notice how she sees Ethan in the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
Like she looks right at him in the mirror. It's only for like a second. She's like, I see you, fucking. But she gets on the phone and acts like she doesn't notice he's there.
Well, I like the part. I mean, because literally when he goes in there, which I find. I think Ethan's kind of stupid through Resident Evil 8.
Kind of is in a lot of ways.
Because like he's looking in the window and this like big ass woman's like sitting near the window. Like I would be fucking terrified. I would not be like, oh, what are you doing, and stuff. And then like Ethan says some stupid stuff as well.
As
like,
always, a trustworthy, fair exchange.
Yeah, exactly. That's why this is happening.
He's got like some dumbass one-liners too,
mm-hmm.
and they don't work. They're not like Leon's one-liners.
Yeah.
You know, like that's another thing where I feel like they kind of tried to ape a little bit of RE4's energy somewhat. Because like Leon's one-liners are funny, or they become so bad they're good.
Let me know if you find anything else of value.
Your right hand comes off, and I forget what the fuck. You're small time.
Please do take
Sadler,
a look at my
whatever
new stock.
You know?
Well, I like his one-liner in right at the part where you're in the beginning and like everybody dies in that house. The female, I forgot her name because she's so irrelevant throughout the beginning. Elena, something like that. And he just like he bangs you like, why does this always happen to me? People dying.
Oh, yeah, why does everybody die on me? Like, what the fuck? Oh yeah, I remember. Like, I remember when he first really made me eye roll was like fucking when you're in the fishing village, and you're trying to get across the environment. Like it's that part where you're trying to make your way across to the other windmill to get the crank, and you have to use something to get this big wrecked boat out of the water.
Unfortunately, you don't seem to have the funds.
He pulls it up. He says, "Oh, I caught a big one." I'm like, motherfucker, there's a giant ass man-eating fish in the water trying to get your ass right now.
I almost forgot about that one puzzle with the in the Moreau area where you had to like hit the red switch and the white switch and the blue switch, and you have to like hit it in a certain. I'm like, wow, this is so hard.
And that's none of them were the goddamn solutions right there. There's literally a piece of paper And it's like, yeah, you can read it wrong if you don't pay attention to like the little detail on the paper. If somebody drew a line on it to let you know this is the right way you hold it up, like that's just another example of that. But
it's like it's like they're catering to the casual crowd more than the hardcore people crowd a little bit more.
Well, apparently it's not unfounded because people bitch about even these puzzles. It's just, and they're not. I don't understand what everybody's fucking problem is.
Stupid. That's why.
Why are people dumb?
I don't. Because the internet.
People that yeah. People who are not dumb that watch this, listen to this. You all are cool. You guys are OG probably anyway if you're fucking listening to this.
Yeah, since we're a Resident Evil oriented podcast, so.
But the only thing I have left to say about this, the pacing and whatnot, is I couldn't help but think that like maybe they should have shuffled things around a little bit in terms of where you go. Like, maybe you do go to the castle first, but you don't kill Lady D and that's it. Like maybe you get in that fucking chapel and you get the knife. And maybe you do stab her, maybe you don't. She just tosses your ass off that cliff, and you fucking survive it. And you have to work your way up the cliff and back to the village.
What I would have done probably is she pushes you out of the castle, right? And you survive because you're a mold. By the way, spoiler alert, he's a fucking mold monster.
I got some shit to say about that, but we'll get there.
I kind of digged it a little bit because it's a nice way to kind of like swerve the crowd, I guess, a little bit. But anyway, what I would have done is he would fall out of the window, and then she'd like scream, be like, "Ethan!" And then like he'd like Ethan would pass out because he thinks he's dying when he's not.
I just wanted to say like, "Die, you son of a bitch!" in that angry voice. That's all you hear, and you fucking just fall down a giant chasm.
Yeah, and what I would have done is I would have done a swerve, right? Well, you would face Moreau and you would easily kick his ass because all he does is vomit in the sky and like you hide under the thing and you shoot him a lot until he dies.
I like how fucking grossed out he was by him. It's just like what the like there's that part where he apparently he can't control his mutation and he's just being fish or not, it's just happening.
Yeah.
And he just comes out there to like taunt you or something. After he's just got that meat of fish, and he just starts vomiting up that green shit, and he's trying to spit something out, like he's trying to tell you something he can't.
Well, I like how he has a puke tray next to his TV that like only airs Heisenberg messages. But
what the hell was he watching?
I don't know.
There's nothing on there. It's just static. But he's just like, Ethan's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But that's valid. That's pretty valid.
But I would have had Ethan beat him. And then all of a sudden, that's when Lady D comes at it. Because, like, you always see Lady D in her castle or somewhere indoors. You never see her outside, right?
That's what I was going to say. Like, how cool would it have been? Like, this is just me thinking about the game around her being bad. I'm sick for it. But, like, what if she rolled into the village in, like, a fucking carriage? Crazy horses and some shit. It was like, and you see her like climb out of this carriage. What the fuck is it's an enormous carriage?
Or you know, she's in the carriage and like those big werewolf people or like dragon.
The werewolf things, yeah, those. Yeah. That would have been cool. And then she comes out and she's like got her cigarette thing. And she's like, "Ooh, Ethan Winters, I know about you." And then, like, she gets some fucking lichen peasants or some shit to grab you.
And then you see Mother Miranda, like, fucking the bitch from Power Rangers. Lady D, grow! Oh my God. And she grows into a big monster.
Pretty good. But, like, God, I like my version better.
I know. I just thought of it. I was like, wait, Lady D's kind of tall, but like that's kind of like making it to be like, I don't know, Kane versus Daniel Bryan, and then and then it's like, wait, you have to make her like big like Godzilla, and you just do like a Power Ranger scene, and then like somehow Ethan grows.
Why not? Apparently he's fucking mold, so why not? But that's kind of all I got for like the gameplay stuff. I feel like they could have switched stuff around a little bit and made it feel less uneven.
I mean, I digged it because I think I always look at it like it's a wrestling show, kind of a little bit, where like the Lady D part is kind of like kicking off the match, and then you have to have that lull, which
I thought the ambush was kicking off the match.
Kinda, I guess.
And then like you exploring the village is the lull, and then you go, to the castle, and then that's kind of like picking back up again.
Mm-hmm. And then
that's the sub main event.
Yeah, and then Benevito is kind of like I don't know,
Bray Wyatt match.
Yeah. I don't know. I had fun.
I did too, but it's just something I noticed. Like, I'm not saying this is bad and they fucked up. I'm just saying, like, it's something I feel like that could have made the game stronger if they did what I did.
I mean, it kind of makes you think, right? Like, if they had more time, it would pan out more as far as the pacing. And since they were running out of time, they wanted to push this game out. It kind of makes you think, what was cut out. Like 801, maybe something would have happened that was pretty cool. And then the Moreau could have been maybe a little cooler.
What do you think about the factory? That's another thing that comes up a lot.
My friends Steve and Ted took their time exploring. I kind of jetted through the factory.
Yes, I'm not going to say a lot of people don't like the factory, but I feel like there is a good amount that dislike it. Like, they don't like the area. They don't like how you get fucking... It feels really samey. And I will say, in terms of a design standpoint, there's always an area in a Resident Evil game that has really samey design. It's either going to be a lab. Usually it is a lab.
The factory reminds me of the sewers and everything.
Well, I was having this discussion with somebody actually about that, and I was going to say, actually, the sewers in Resident Evil games, I mean, maybe with the exception of some of the more modern ones, I can't think of off the top of my head of there being a long sewer part in any of those. But usually the sewer areas are really short in Resident Evil games. They're just abridged areas you go through to go somewhere else really quickly.
So then it would have to be like what? Maybe laboratory, basement to laboratory?
Yeah, but that's what I was going to say is the thing is they would always design those areas. They would make them interesting in a way that wasn't...
Welcome, Ethan.
You didn't feel like I'm just in this really samey environment. Like the lab in Resident Evil 1 I always really liked because it's creepy as fuck.
I brought this up to my friends, but I don't know.
Always,
they're not big Star Trek fans.
Fair exchange.
I'm not either, really. Like, not... I'm working on it.
But you know the Borg, right?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So, like, all these things that he were creating, it felt like the Borg. Like, they were, like, half Lycan, half machine, obviously, because of the steampunk feel to it.
Yeah, and then, like, more of them had more plating, add-ons and shit on them, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I digged those enemies. They were terrifying, because when you're on a fucking hallway
I can see
with a fucking propeller guy...
Oh, interested in that.
You're just like, what the fuck?
You can't stop it. I mean, like, at least not till later. So, all you can do is run
next
from
we
it.
meet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
I will
just thinking of ways
I
to
guess
pass
this
the
is like a
time.
sub-boss kind of thing, but there's a part where
I forgot about him, actually. We didn't really... Yeah, we
Don't let
him
up
in
yet.
The boss. He's a boss.
I will say, I think he's an interesting boss. Like, he's one of those people where, like, he's very berserker kind of thing, where he's chasing after you, but he has the fuck me light on the back.
He's one of those bosses where you dodge him and he runs into a wall and he gets stunned.
Yeah.
That's what he does. But
quality.
if you play on a harder difficulty, he doesn't stay stunned as long. And he enters that phase where he spits fire everywhere a lot more. And it makes it harder. because there was a point where the whole room had fire around it, and I kind of got trapped. There was like almost no way to get out of that shit without getting hurt pretty badly. So he's a little bit harder on hardcore mode.
I wonder if Village of the Shadow how he is.
I'm gonna try that at some point, but not right now.
What this game did to me,
It did something to you?
it just let me show you the doll and I'll point where it touched me. So I've been this is gonna sound like really emo, but like I've been really like depressed on games lately, where to the point where I just want to, you know, like beat the game and that's it kind of thing. Resident Evil 8 brought me back to where I was just like, oh, the replay value is crazy. I wanna kind of 100% get a platinum trophy out of it because it's so enjoyable to play.
Yeah, it's not often, like, I don't know if I would have called it like a depressing state where I just finish the game and I'm just like done with it.
I do it because it's just like I'm doing it just to do it, not to enjoy it. Because I feel like enjoying a game is exploring the game, right?
It can be. That's one way to enjoy a game. I try to enjoy every game I play. And I don't think too much about how that's gonna shake out. It's just I just kind of let it happen. However it does. But I don't tend to replay that many games right after I beat them. They're usually like, oh, I'll come back to this later another time and play again. There are certain ones I played where I did go back and play it again. This is one I've done. The last one I did was Resident Evil 3. The one before that was Resident Evil 2. If we're going to go back even further, it was probably Jesus. Maybe Batman Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, that's another one.
Metal Gear Solid 3. And I don't want to go back any further than that because I'd have to sit there and really think, and it would take forever.
Yeah.
Mass Effect. Like Mass Effect 1, I did that.
Can't wait to play Legendary Edition. I'm getting that for my birthday. So I can't wait to dive into that as well. I don't know. I've been like Resident Evil 8 brought the itch of being like, wow, and I know a lot of people are gonna disagree, but like, oh, I've been playing single players for a while. But like, I feel like single players got on the back burner for a little bit, probably because of the pandemic. It's probably a big because everybody's playing VR and shit and all that stuff, or multiplayer.
And then like game development slowed down a lot because of that. You know, everything's kind of gotten into a slump. Unless it was like indie titles.
Yeah.
Everything's slowed down in terms of releases. But that wraps up gameplay for me.
We got one more gameplay that we didn't really touch. Inventory system.
Oh, I thought we did a little bit.
We did a little bit, but like very Resident Evil 4 like in this one.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, it's literally attache case again. It's the same thing. The only thing I don't like about it is it's really stingy about how it lets you move things around, and it's like kind of frustrating.
The menu system too, because like when you get an item and it doesn't fit, it tells you to move things. But like when I move things, I don't know if I hit like X or A or whatever, it like pushes me out and it's like, I didn't grab the item. I didn't move anything. What the hell's going on here?
Oh, my issue came from like how you can't just put an item down on top of another item and then move that item. Like you're switching what you're moving. It doesn't let you do that. You have to physically put down the item you were just moving, put it away somewhere out of the way, and then pick up the other item you want to move. It's just frustrating menu control shit that I feel like shouldn't be there. Because Resident Evil 4 just let you do that. Why couldn't you do that?
I don't know.
It's not a big deal. It's like kind of nitpicky bullshit that doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
other than the point you brought up about how this attaché case thing, kind of like in Resident Evil 4, eliminates any kind of need for like inventory management, which was a big part of Resident Evil. Especially with like they want to have the crafting thing, and then they half-assedly put some crafting things in your inventory and then some don't. You carry all this meat around in your inventory, but you don't. All this fucking rusty ass gears and gunpowder and weeds.
I think it would have made it more challenging.
It would have,
because you would have had all this meat. Well, meat's in your inventory, but like the gears and stuff and all the other items, like it was in like a sub inventory thing, where it was in your craft menu system.
I think they could have made it. Like, I'm not saying each individual piece they don't slot, but they could stack up to a certain really creative use. Like, I don't know, maybe in 5s or 3s. It's something that makes you think.
So let's talk about story, right?
No.
The game starts off. You're in your house.
It shows the storybook first.
Oh yeah. It's
which is a little odd.
So the Village of the Shadow is pretty much the characters of the town, right? Like,
it's kind of foreshadowing what is going to happen. Like the big white bat is the horse, the horse with the deer in its head's Heisenberg.
The fish with the multiple eyes of Moreau.
Yeah, and so on and so forth.
So we get that Tim Burton kind of feel to it in the beginning, and
it's kind of like Coraline meets Nightmare Before Christmas or something.
Yeah, and then like it's Mia, reading the story to Rose, and then Ethan being a bitch and being like, "Hey, that's too scary for a baby," and right after he says that, I'm kind of like, "Man, Ethan, shut the fuck up! I still haven't seen your face yet."
Listen. Why is it important that you see his face?
Because he's a character.
I guess. I mean, we all know what fucking Gordon Freeman looks like. But hey, you got to remember, he's been through a traumatic ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to see scary shit. He says that even during that house when you're doing that little bit through the house there.
Yeah, I took the baby, by the way. And I spinned my joystick around, and I started doing "You spin me right round, baby" on my stream.
I started just like when she said like, put her to bed. I did like the exact opposite of that. I just walked around the whole house with this baby, because that's what I'm gonna do. They set me down in an environment. I'm just gonna look around the entire environment.
Yeah, and then I actually. I liked it because you found the laptop that you learned about information that there's tension between Mia and Ethan about the whole Louisiana situation. And then the fucking newspaper where they cover up the whole mold monster thing. They call it like a gas leak or whatever.
Acre property.
So you get that information, which is cool. I'm trying to think what else.
There's little snippets of information you could get from observing the environment. Like, you'd go into the bathroom and so Mia's medication. She's doing this ever since the incident. she's having some issues. Then you find like one of the little bobbleheads from the RC. He has it in his house, and he's like, I don't know why I keep this thing. I need to get rid of it. Yeah, why do you have that?
Yeah, because he's talking about like forgetting, or no, he wants to talk about it just so like to get therapy out and like to move on from the situation. And here he is with all these mementos from like Resident Evil 7 and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's a couple things. I like there was a couple of little nods to old Resident Evil stuff there. There's more
Kendo's
later.
book.
Yeah, when he says like it's not paranoid if they really have to get you, it's because he got a book about guns and shit. And there's the thing about George Trevor's book about Eastern European castle architecture. George Trevor was the guy that designed the mansion, if nobody remembers that.
Yeah. Which is going to be another nod down the road when we get near the end. So, baby in bed, right?
They put the baby in bed. If you have mods, it's hilarious because then it could be like Chris. It's really odd when you see Chris's head on the baby.
If I ever upgrade my computer or get a new computer, I am going to be modding the shit out of it and stuff.
It's fun to mod those, man. We all have like kind of fun mods.
Yeah.
You put the baby in bed, you go back downstairs to talk to Mia. They start to have dinner, but then they start having an argument already because he's like, why can't we just talk about what happened in Louisiana? And she's like, why can't you just let it go? But then the lights go out in the house, and then there's gunshots, and then you see Mia's been shot, but she reacts to it really weird, like it's like it didn't even phase her.
Yeah,
like, what?
And I didn't think of it right away, right?
Well, yeah.
And you're just like, well, when someone gets shot, like, one, they might like pause for a second and be like, wow, did I just get shot? But then that pain would come in and you would scream, you think. Or something along the lines of what's going on here. She kind of stares at it like she's Terminator, and she does like this, and then all of a sudden she gets like fucking Scarface and shit. To the point where she's like on the ground, blood. Well, you think she's all bloody, and then Chris Redfield comes in, and he's just like, Chris,
why?
and
It's like, sorry. And then he just fucking shoots her in the head like 4 times. And it's like, that's a crazy intro, honestly.
Yes, because you're just like, wow, Chris Redfield's a dick. And remember when we watched the trailers, because we saw that scene, right?
Yeah.
And we're thinking Chris Redfield's going to be a villain or maybe a sub-villain to the story, which we'll get down later. We'll get to it later. But, so, before, he takes Rose, he tells his werewolf, I forgot his group's name, the Lone... Yeah, so he's not with BSAA anymore, but he still has contact with them.
He's with Blue Umbrella now.
Yeah.
They're just called the Umbrella Corporation.
Yeah, which we still don't know technically what that corporation's all about yet.
I learned a little bit about it because they don't really... I'm starting to notice they're coming up with like story beats from 7 and 8 and after a little bit that don't make it into the game, and it's not really explained that well. Like, I guess after they financially collapsed originally, like after Resident Evil 4, there was a movement to restructure and reform Umbrella and rehabilitate their image and shit. Like, I guess people that worked for the company and had no idea they were involved in a bunch of crazy shit or whatever. And they're like, and they changed the Umbrella logo from the red and white umbrella to the blue and white umbrella to help get it away from that image.
We're good guys, but we're still keeping the evil symbol.
And they're a legit pharmaceutical company shit, but they also research anti-bioweapon stuff to help get rid of bioweapons. And I guess Chris eventually joins up with Umbrella. And yeah, so there's a skip in there somewhere where we don't learn how Chris or why Chris joins with Umbrella, but something happens with the BSAA or whatever, and they don't seem to be that good anymore.
Which I think that's what they're leading to, hopefully, maybe in DLC or in the next Resident Evil game.
Yeah.
But anyway, he grabs Mia, well, you think is Mia, and Ethan and Rose, and this is the part that kind of like makes me think Chris is stupid, right? So they know everything about Mia. They know that she could shapeshift into, or not Mia, Mother Miranda could shapeshift into other people.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, spoiler alert. If you're at this point listening to our podcast, we're going to spoilers. I don't care. I have to talk about in this scene instead of going back and forth. But if she has all these great powers and stuff, why would you put them in the same vehicle?
I don't know.
Because
even later in the game, when like there's you play as Chris later, even some of his squad mates are like, "You should have told Ethan what was going on." He's like, "There wasn't time," which is a fucking lame ass excuse.
No, I think he said it's too late, but yeah, like
yeah, you're right. He's like, even though you should have told him. He's like, yeah. that's the end of that comment.
It's kind of like it was a cop out. They're like, yeah, I should have told him, but then we would never have a team. So booyah, bitch.
I guess that doesn't change too much. It'd be like, Ethan, Mia, that's not Mia. That's Mother Miranda. What? And then he like shows him all these files and bullshit and on his iPhone and stuff. He's like, this is what's going on. We're going to this remote village. And I didn't want to get you involved in this. He's like, but my daughter, Mia. So, God damn it, stay out of the way. And then he doesn't listen. You still have me.
By the way, put me in your phone as Alpha.
Because Chris is Alpha.
So, they transport Ethan, Mother Miranda, and Rose in the same transport. Well, the whole Mother Miranda wakes up, probably destroys the fucking convoy with Ethan and Rose, and kidnaps Rose. And
I will say they thought they could.
oh, I would.
They did say that.
I would still have her like in a separate vehicle, but maybe they didn't have enough vehicles. Maybe Chris Redfield didn't want to ride with Mother Miranda. Because in here. Yep. So Ethan shows up in this like snowy area. He's, I guess, in Romania.
They don't say, but where they have lake currents and stuff. The lake currency is the Romanian currency. They think, it's weird.
Yeah. So you go down this creepy path. You start to see like shadows, like pretty much. Kind of like setting you off a little bit. And then you get to, and I'm kind of speeding. Tell me if I miss anything, but we get to the building with the girl and her father, and they're starting to do like this M. Night Shyamalan thing where these are others. We can't have others in our community. We'll get in trouble. And
the ambush happens before that.
Oh yeah, like
you survive it, and then you hear like a radio kind of flickering on and off, and then you hear that message like, go to Louise's house, past the vehicle, and you're a survivor. So that directs you to that point. Yeah.
So you do that. They kind of like tease another vehicle scene a little bit. It's just like Ethan in the truck inside of the house with him like crashing through a doorway, but then like flips the truck over. Then they go up to the roof, and
what if it was just like a crazy werewolf man, and he was just like, fuck, and then he just starts the truck and starts running over and over and over. He's like, stop, that's my father.
I would laugh a little bit. I
think that would be criticized, like, that's too much like the one in Resident Evil.
I have to say, I was kind of interested in the group that we ran into, by the way. Because I was like, we have that one guy who's like freaking the fuck out because, brought another in the house, and like the father's all bloodied up and he's gonna turn soon. And
it's just like that Mario Rosso guy from Resident Evil 3. You feel like, except it's a whole room full of it. But that was another thing I forgot that got cut, was apparently that Elena girl was supposed to be a playable character a couple of times through the game.
Really?
Yeah, but they decided not to do that. I think there was going to be like segments where you couldn't really fight or something.
I made a joke. Like, man, Elena's pretty hot more than Mia. Just go away with Elena.
You're like, her face is more highly detailed than these other characters. It's giant.
Yep. And they mess around with it a little bit because the father turns into a werewolf and he's like down the hallway.
A werewolf.
A lichen. Yeah, a lichen. And Elena shoots her father. And then they go up to the roof area. And I hate this part because he's like coming up the stairs with the lichen and he's like, Elena. He's like, Dad! And then like he dies and stuff. And I'm like, dumb bitch, dumb.
You already know that he's a wereman monster, like a drug. And then even Ethan is telling her, like, no, it's not him anymore. Like, listen, you already figured that out the first time. Why are you falling for it? Yeah.
And then she gets to a point because like the father is like, he fell through first into the fire. Into the fire! Sorry. And then like Ethan's like, grab my hand, and she does nothing, I guess because she felt the creaking of the wood. And she's like, just go. And then she pushes her head into the
Really cheap looking stuff.
Yeah.
She literally falls into like a fiery house, and you can see the floor.
Shit.
It's not like it's not out of your field of vision or anything. You can see the floor down there. She just disappears. It's like a fucking PS2 trick or something. But that was another thing, was supposedly where she had more of a role in the game. She was also supposed to die, apparently in a more gruesome and awful manner than that. So I can only think maybe it's something like Lady D fucking plays her alive and drinks her blood or some shit. I don't know.
You drank my wine, I gotta make more. And like she just cuts her in half and pours her into a fucking thing.
That bottle is really old. You don't fuck with that. You don't fuck with somebody's wine like that.
Yep. So, and that's where the part where we talked about before is like, why does everybody die around me and all that stuff. Fast forward a little bit. You go to the castle, right? Unless there's like, we find Duke because Duke pops out and he's like, Mr. Winters. Which, by the way, everybody knows Ethan because I guess because of the daughter, right? Because he was a marked man.
I guess so.
You're the real
And,
deal, Ethan.
Well, he was a marked
Well done.
family.
Quit hiding, asshole.
So you know
I'm not letting
you learn
get out
about
of this.
Duke. And
Cool
then
your jets.
Duke throws
Just
in
a
that
little bit more,
he knows
and you're
the
all
merchant,
wrapped
by
up.
the way. Like,
I'll lend you a hand.
what
So in
are you
exchange-
buying? I
In
knew a
exchange
guy
what?
before, and they
First
throw
of
that
all,
in
come to
there.
me.
Yeah.
Put all the flasks in
great
the
little
altar,
nod, but
and I'm sure
kinda
you'll figure the
cheesy a
rest
little
out.
bit.
See
It's
you.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if Azul has a little cheese.
Mm-hmm. So then we get to the Lady D part. Oh, no. I'm sorry. We get to the castle, but then Heisenberg shows up.
Yeah.
And he's like... One, he speaks like Nicolas Cage.
It's so weird. I didn't tell you that, right? You just thought that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, what the is he doing like a Nicolas Cage thing? Because it really feels like he's got the same cadence. He doesn't sound like Nicolas Cage, but he talks like him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And he does...
Anyway, he's like, Ethan Winters, it's you. What are you doing here? Why am I asking you these questions? And he just like throws a bunch of garbage at him and he traps him and drags him away.
And then that's when you start to see all the lords, right? And also Mother Miranda. Which, by the way, you kind of get like a quick glimpse of Mother Miranda. Because when you leave the house with the Elena and the father and stuff, like
Just after the house burns down and everybody dies.
Yeah, you open up the gate and there's like one village person who's like, no, and like dies and shit, and Mother Miranda just walks away.
She's like,
Yeah.
walks away in the field and she just fucking disappears. I don't know.
Yeah, and then like we get to the part where they're all in this like I guess dungeon area. And
Oh, hey, real quick, that reminds me of something we forgot.
what?
What about the hag? Like, they don't really, she doesn't really have a name, but that's actually what they refer to her as, the hag.
So they kind of talk about this, right? This is kind of jumping a little bit, but when we learn about Mother Miranda shape-shifting, remember the part where you talk to Eve, by the way? Eve makes another fucking comeback when you learn about being a mold monster. She goes, Mother Miranda, is, a shapeshifter, and you see Eve turn into the witch, or whatever, that old hag. So I'm like, was that Mother Miranda the whole time?
Apparently it was.
Yeah.
And that raises some questions about the story a little bit, in my opinion.
Let's dive into that. What's the questions?
So, I know that she kind of like, I feel like this is just not set up that well. It just doesn't pay off till the very end of the game. That's one of my criticisms of this character.
Mm-hmm.
And this gets into like why, I can tell they added her in like at the tail end of development, because you literally see her like twice very early in the game, very brief glimpses.
It's my greatest
You see her
pleasure
very
to
quickly
see you
kill
return
some fucking
alive.
guy that was in that house, and then she disappears.
Oh, yes.
And then you see her in this scene after Heisenberg captures you, and she's like way in the background there, where all the four lords are in the foreground, and they're all getting up in your face and talking to you and everything.
Can I add to that? I think
Sure.
I've
I
gotten
think
some new stock.
I think two factors, right? So one factor is, remember in pre-development they were just like, oh, there's gonna be a witch that's gonna be haunting you.
An interesting
I think that
selection.
hag was supposed to be a witch that would kind of be
Securing
like
goods is
haunting you
more
throughout the
important
village.
than anything.
But that might have
Anything,
changed down the road. And
I think so.
number two, I think what they tried to capture that magic, right? Because remember when we learned in Resident Evil 7 that
Oh,
Eve
it's fine.
was the
All
fucking
finished.
grandmother that was just like dead on the wheelchair the whole time?
That was kind of crazy.
Yeah. I think they were trying to capture that magic and be like, oh my god, another grandma that was just like,
I'm
chilling,
skilled
and
at all
it
sorts
was
of
the
weapons
actual
modifications,
villain
and
the
will
whole
do them
time
for a
throughout the
small
whole
fee.
game.
I didn't really consider that actually when
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, but like I guess I could see that angle.
Till next we
But-
meet.
The hag helps Ethan, and like first she gives him vague hints, but then she just straight up gives him keys. And it's like, wait, why is she helping him? And now she does say a throwaway line at the end when they have their confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you aided me
good.
in
I was
helping
just
me get
thinking of
rid of
ways
my
to pass the
failed
time.
children and shit. I'm like,
Have-
okay.
I think this is what was gonna happen. So I think she was hoping, and I don't know why, because stealing your daughter or child and stuff, that's not gonna make me want to be with you.
No.
But I think what was gonna happen is like she wanted to kill her lords because technically they're failed experiments.
But wonderful.
And
Wish to
Rose
make
was
a
supposed
purchase?
to be the one, kind of like the Neo.
Yeah, but they all serve her except Heisenberg. He kind of
he was
like,
building an army.
he begrudgingly serves her, but like that makes me wonder. She must know he's like plotting to overthrow her or some shit.
I think Mother Miranda was Palpatine, right?
Sure.
And I think Ethan was supposed to be Vader.
That doesn't. Yeah, but it
And then
It's
Rose
still-
is supposed to be Luke
Spend like
Skywalker.
kings.
that still doesn't make any sense though. Why would you want somebody to kill all your help that's loyal to you?
Because if you read their dossier in the Mother Miranda area,
Yeah.
they're all failed experiments. Like the only closest one, which it brings me like Metal Gear vibes a little bit because of the fucking French word for the triple
Delighted.
clones and shit.
Les enfants terribles.
Yeah, terrible. Like uh fucking Heisenberg is like the closest thing that she was like close to something, and like Lady D is kind of like Solidus in a way.
Yeah, I get that. Like, that's still the thing that bothers me about it, though, is like, oh, sure, they're all failures, I guess. But it feels really wishy-washy. It feels weak. It feels like weak writing to me.
Well, if your
all
rumors are correct, I mean, she was kind of shoot in. So
yeah,
Good
that's what I'm
day,
getting
then.
at, because it's like Heisenberg's not loyal to her, really. Whatever. The other three are, though. And it just doesn't make any sense to kill your help that's been helping you the whole time. And still helping you. They all failed and died, I guess.
well, that's why I got the weird vibes even before the game came out, because like the latest trailer before the release date, like everybody was saying, "Oh, you must be the famous Ethan Winters." I'm like, why? Why does everybody know my name?
How's he famous? They literally covered up the incident that he was part of and said it was a gas leak, and he just happened to be there.
Yeah. So like, I think, and again, maybe I need to read all the journals again. Maybe they kind of make a story out of it. But I think Ethan was supposed to be Miranda's, I guess, right-hand man. It was just written really poorly.
I don't even think that. I just didn't get that impression at all. But she said something about, like, I wanted you to kill them, and it's like, why? She wanted his daughter, obviously.
Because Rose apparently is amazingly strong, which kind of worries me for 9, which we'll get to.
Yeah. It's just kind of like weirdly baffling. Because the only one that really tried to do something like that was Heisenberg. Heisenberg wanted to make an alliance with Ethan, and he was like, "Hey, help me kill Miranda. You can use Rose. We can use Rose together. Fuck her. Fuck that bitch. Fuck her." Like he's just doing like. I wish he just acted more like Nick Cage. Actually.
Yeah. By the way, and I know I understand why he did it. Fuck you, dude. Like, he tried to kill me. What?
I felt kind of bad for him a little bit, actually. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
If you think about it, I still think Heisenberg might have like backstabbed him down the road. But if they would have tag teamed, like, I don't understand why Ethan said no, right?
He could have teamed up with this guy and backstabbed him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have Heisenberg turn to that weird fucking Metal Gear monster, and then like you use his tank, and then you guys fight Miranda, and surely you both could beat Ethan beat her without a fucking tank. Barely. Imagine if he had the tank. So,
I guess you would have never got that part where like he throws you in the hole, but like there's a part where you're like, hey, I finally made it to the top floor. And fucking Heisenberg just like hits you back down and shit, and then you like meet Chris down the fucking hallway who's building the tank machine.
they should introduce choices, branching storylines in the Resident Evil.
I mean, it would be interesting. I wouldn't mind it if it still had that linear path, kind of like a Mass Effect feel a little bit. But I digress on that. Trying to think. I guess we're hitting up the key points. Benevito's area, right?
Well, we go to the castle after this, after the meeting of the lords, and you escape like a death
Jigsaw.
trap set up by Heisenberg. It's a bunch of like fucking spiked ceilings and fucking rolling death machines, and Lycans are trying to get you all at the same time. That's actually kind of a crazy part when you're trying to escape all this shit. And then you get out of it, and then Ethan gets back to the castle. He's like, okay, finally I get to the castle. You're there.
Yeah. And
This is one of the better parts of the game.
yeah, this part is really good because like you have Lady D who's like chasing you around. You have the daughters who are chasing you around at some point. Which are, by the way, those are like, you have to force it that those parts to happen. They don't just show up anywhere, and kind of with Lady D as well.
Well, one of them does happen no matter what. You're kind of railroaded into fighting her, the first one. And that's when you learn the weakness. It does it in a cutscene because something happens and she breaks the window or whatever by accident.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh my god, it's cold. It lets you know, oh, hey, okay, that's how you do it. You don't actually run into Lady D until after you kill the first daughter, I think.
Yeah. Because then you get that part, you killed my daughter!
Yeah, you hear her fucking yell somewhere in the house, what have you done to my daughter? It's like, oh god.
And,
She's gonna choke slam me through the floor.
which she does.
Which she literally does, and she gets up all in your face and yells at you. It's like it's a little scary.
Yeah. Oh, we forgot the one puzzle where you read the sign in the bloodbath room, where you have to move the statues around. That was
somewhat
Evil.
of a puzzle. That was a little bit.
Yeah.
That was reminiscent of some old Resident Evil shit a little.
Yeah, it wasn't too hard because it's like literally you just had to like turn them to the one area like clockwork.
The piano too. It was easy because you just kept hitting the right key until you got the right note.
Unless you know how to play piano.
Unless you just know how to read music.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm like Chris. Chris unfortunately can't read music, and neither can I.
He needs Rebecca to play the piano.
Yeah, Jill doesn't need that shit. She's just smart.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the reason why I like the castle so much, because it's the most like a classic Resident Evil setting area.
I highly agree because you have the piano, you have the mansion feel to it a little bit.
You have a weird, giant, opulent ass weird location with a bunch of crazy architecture.
Yeah, and how you escape the castle is you have to find all the statue faces that are apparently the key to get out of her castle, which is funny. She, in the beginning, when you enter it, she like chains you to, which I made a joke with my friend Steve while he was watching me play. Like, everything that happens to fucking Ethan's hands. At this point, I would just fucking chop off my hands and put like swords on them or something. Because every time he's like, his hand is getting chopped off. It's fucking
Loses his fingers.
Loses his fingers. Fucking Lady D puts him on hooks like he's a pig at a slaughterhouse.
He's gonna rip his shit out of the hooks.
Let me know if you find.
And by the way, did you notice when he
Find
lost
anything
2
else of value?
fingers, he only had 3 on this hand, and that makes
8.
Ooh.
Play with the title there. But yeah, finding the man, like exploring through the castle was fun. I liked, my favorite part of the castle is when you go in the dungeon area and you see like all the lichens down there with the swords and shit.
I don't think those are lichens. I think they're like something. They're like ghouls, really. They're kind of like zombies.
What's going on?
With swords.
Yeah, with swords. You see other zombies later too, but not just in this area.
Yeah, and a scary part in that dungeon is like when you get to the part where like the water's up to your knees and stuff, and you just like walk and all of a sudden they pop out of the water and shit. I was like, holy shit! Like my heart rate went up a little bit playing that area.
Yeah, when you're down in that dungeon and it's really dark, that's when you first encounter them, and you can't really tell where they're at because if you have your camera levels adjusted correctly, you can't see that well in the dark. You can somewhat, but a little ways off, like maybe 5-10 feet away from your field of view, you can't really see.
Yeah.
So like you're looking around because you're hearing this weird noise, and then you turn around, and you see one coming right at you, and it's like, and it's like, oh fuck, that actually did get me. So the dungeon was kind of creepy, yeah. And then that area has a name. It has to do with wine making shit, and I forgot what the distillery. that area that was just a bunch of blood. You were walking around in blood, not water. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was cool. And then obviously when you go to, I guess, Lady D's residential area, I guess, because that's where her room is and her gown, whatever gown she's wearing, and there's a bathroom.
Giant bathtub.
Yeah, and then that's when she comes in and chokeslams you through the floor.
That part was funny. I don't know why. I just kind of enjoy it. She's like,
Welcome.
he doesn't catch that she sees him in
I
the
didn't
mirror.
think you'd make it past daughter
All she does is literally she gets mad because she's on the phone.
in
And
America.
she's like, Ethan's here.
I like you.
He's too much for my daughters to handle. This is
I like
annoying. And then I guess Mother Miranda tells her, well, like, you need to fucking get him. And she's like, I will. I understand the importance of the ceremony.
you
It's
about
something
Rose.
they're setting up through the
And Miranda.
whole game. There's a
Oh,
ceremony.
come on in.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
And she just throws her goddamn dresser across the room. And it's just
are you
like,
planning?
the hell with the ceremony. And she storms out of that room into the bathroom. And then he literally goes in there and starts rifling around in her shit, reading her diary and everything. And then she just comes to the door. Like when he tries to open the door, he's like, oh fuck. It's like literally what he says. There you are. He just grabs him by the throat.
And she's mad at him because obviously that's when the first daughter is dead. And then she chokeslams him through the ground. And I think this is where it leads to the part where the dungeon area, and then to the part where you, I guess you defeat the second daughter, right?
This is where you can kind of like play with who you fight next. You can either go to the library, you can somehow put it off and go there and kill Cassandra instead, or you can kill it's Bella or Daniela in the weird tower where there's like
What
a
the
cannon
hell?
and stuff.
Mia?
You could break down the wall there.
Truth hurts, don't.
Oh man, I was gonna say something about that. And
Well, my favorite daughter fight is the one
Take
where
me
you
out like
open
the
up
others,
sunroof
and then he
like
gets
the
to go and save
cold
Rose.
air comes
right?
in. It's like the
yeah, that's in
library.
the,
healing
that's in the
my daughter.
library. Yeah.
Yeah. I told my friend this. I
You
was
got the
like,
soul.
it kind of reminds me,
Something to tell.
and it's gonna sound funny because it doesn't resemble it at all, but it resembles it. in
Shut your
a
fucking
very
hole!
Fashion, but it Revolver Ocelot in Metal Gear Solid 1, where you're just like
Take a seat.
running around because once you put the cold on her, she runs around in
Listen,
a circle
Ethan,
library.
you're being
and you're
played.
just shooting her, but it
are you
has
talking
nothing
about?
to do with the Metal
think
Gear
this is a
Solid
game?
1. I just had like a flashback of.
I said
something
sit.
like that.
Yeah.
But that's my favorite daughter fight. The other two are lame in my
Lady,
opinion.
supersized bitch.
Oh,
I'll go
forgot.
to psycho.
After she chokeslams
And then we're
you
on a
through
freak.
several stories of this castle, which,
Don't you-
by the way, this made me
It's a
think,
test.
like, she just put
To
a
see if
hole
you're
in
strong
the
enough to be a
bedroom
part of
floor
Miranda's family.
or
I don't
whatever.
want to be a
And
part of
it's
Miranda's
like,
family.
Neither did I, but
That's not
here we
but
are.
she put a hole
I'm
in her
next in
floor.
line, right?
Who's gonna fix that?
Kill me, move up the
Duke.
chain. Well, fuck that.
I don't give a damn about your personal issues.
Like this job
just
is
wanna
obviously
fix my
beneath
daughter.
her. This is like
So
you
do
know,
I.
labor.
Do you have any
She's
idea
not gonna
how
make her
powerful
daughters
that
do
kid
it.
is?
Maybe
Even
Heisenberg.
Miranda's scared of her.
He wouldn't do it. He fucking hates her. They
Last
hate-
time you freaked,
But
I swear to
they're-
God.
They're children of Mother Miranda, so Mother Miranda would be like, go fix her hole.
I
But-
think she would go down to the village in her carriage pulled by a giant werewolf.
You and me, Ethan.
Like I was saying.
Together, we go to save Rose, and we can
Have
use
Lycans.
Some poor,
to
some
grind
poor
Miranda
schmuck
into
from the
paste.
village. You,
My daughter
I need you to
is
do a
not a
repair
weapon.
job. Come with me.
Fuck
And
you.
You can't refuse her.
And,
So
and she like sucks your blood and shit while you're doing the job.
maybe if you do a good enough job, she'll let you.
Last chance.
Maybe.
You know
But
what?
you actually encounter her down there after
I'll take
she
my
throws
chances.
you all the way down there. That's the first time you really come across her.
You're few.
This is one of the things that made me go bullshit in this game. Was when he's like, okay, he's getting through there, and he pulls that lever to go through that gate. And then, like, she slices his arm off, his hand off. And he's like, his reaction is, like, so mild.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, God! Damn! I'm like, you lost your hand, it's gone!
Because he has a bigger reaction when Mia like fucking chainsaws it in 7. He's like, wow, fuck.
That's more violent because it's like this chainsaw is ripping and shit.
A dead end.
This was like cleanly sliced off. It happened very suddenly. Like he was literally in the middle of something and he stopped because he lost all feeling in his hand. And then he looked and he pulled up a stump and it was like, and his reaction, it just felt like not what it really should have been.
What was that thing?
Yeah, and oh, I kind of want to, since he's a mold monster, right, or whatever, a mold person. Like, did you notice the slight nudge and wink wink when Lady D sucks on his blood and goes, "You're kind of stale."
Going a bit stale.
Yeah. I didn't catch that until after because.
That could be interpreted a couple ways because like when I didn't know he was a mold monster, I'm like, is she saying he's getting old? Or something, or is it like now that you know he's a mold monster? Is she saying like it tastes like moldy blood?
I don't know, but yeah, that part. And if you play it on hardcore, it's a little difficult, by the way. Like she's faster, and she maneuvers quickly in that hallway.
This gets to something that I kind of don't like about this game. When you change difficulties and you go up, it's something that makes it more artificially difficult. When you turn up the difficulty, your movement speed slows down.
Yes.
And I don't like that. I feel like that's cheating.
This place is messed up.
Yeah.
Because like I noticed, like in that ambush, that's when I really figured it out. I was like, am I fucking going slower? So I remember my sprint being faster because I got the thing where you can increase your speed. And I felt like I was just slower, even slower than like the default movement speed. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I found out, yeah, that you go slower the higher you turn the difficulty up, and I don't like that.
But yeah, you have to like go around and like collect your hand. By the way, because it's stuck on the switch.
You're sure
And then
you have to
find
get away
something
from her
new.
because she runs. She
then,
actually kind of
feel
runs a
free
little
to
bit when you
peruse.
turn it up. It's like, oh.
Because she's angry, and then you got to put like on that herb juice on your hand, and somehow it like sticks back together, which basically means you're a mold monster. Once you find out down the road, be like, oh, all the times you got hurt.
Yes, I can
Stuff,
see why
like,
you'd be interested.
Kind of makes
in
sense
that.
now.
You don't know that yet. You
But-
enjoy all the killing, Snake.
Yeah. But the gate opens, you run away, and the
God
elevator
created
goes
man's
up, and you're in
back
the
to carry
courtyard and all
burdens,
that
but
stuff.
to think you want to pile on even more.
Which, you know, you go up to the roof also and get the sniper rifle. And pretty much when you get all the faces, you're, you know, out of the castle, but then you go
I hope
across
this one makes
the
itself
bridge,
useful.
and that's when you find that cool-ass knife. And then Lady D shows up.
Do you have enough
And you
firepower?
stab her in like
Please
the
come
rib
again.
titty area.
Yeah, she stabbed you first
Yeah.
because you ruined everything. I agree. Like this fucking peasant comes into your castle and just starts breaking all your valuables and shit.
Well, think
killing
about
your
it.
family.
Well, think about it, because like he's trying to find his daughter, right? And which, by the way, after you beat her as a dragon, like part of Rose is in this little fucking container, but we'll get to that. But like Rose is not even in the castle.
She tells him that earlier.
Yeah, she's like part of hers in the church, and he goes around, like you said, breaking stuff in her house, killing her daughters, and just causing havoc for no apparent reason.
I'm kind of trolling. I mean, they dragged him through her, and like these fucking baby bitches are trying to eat him.
Yeah,
They want to physically eat him. Like,
true. All right, touche on that part, but
I was just kind of halfway trolling about that. But
he could have. Well, obviously not, because he had to find all the masks to leave. So.
But yeah, like he stabbed her, and she makes this horrible squealing sound, throws you through a wall, and then she turns into a dragon,
Yep. Then
which
you.
is another sly nod to like Dracula vampire shit and stuff.
And then you fight her in the tower. you find all the weapons and shit. You shoot her. And then she like breaks the top of the tower. And then you fall down. Oh, no. You fight her. You go up. And then you fight her. And then you go back down again. And then she's finally dead.
She curses you until she dies.
Yep.
And then he says, "You're the one that's cursed." And I'm like, really, dude? I'm starting to like question his mental state at this point.
Yep.
Because his mild reactions to like crazy injuries, and then his not good attempts at one-liners.
Yeah, it's kind of, how should I say it? Sus, I guess. Whatever.
It's a little sus.
But you defeat her, and then you have this container, and then you go to Duke.
He's like, "You have your daughter right there." Like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Rub the jar." He's like, because there's like a bunch of dirt on the label. Like, he never inspected it closely. I did, but he fucking didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was like looking at it because this is Resident Evil game. What the fuck is this thing? And then he finally rubs the dirt off and it says Rosemary W. And he's like, "What?"
By the way, so is Rose Eve as well?
Essentially. It's, yeah. And I guess because it's mold, and Mia was also mold. See, there's a whole plot hole there because.
Wait, Mia's mold too?
Well, she was infected. She was molded in the original game. That's why she was like, or is 7. That's why she was like, going crazy and stuff.
Now I want to. I mean, I know it's not gonna affect Resident Evil 8, but now I just want to save the other chick in 7.
See, this is the whole. I guess we can get into it now. This is kind of a problem I have with the story in this game. I feel like they made Resident Evil 7, and they made real attempts to have shocking stuff happen to you to jar the player. Like the stuff we were talking about earlier. And one of those things is like Ethan getting his hand chopped off and crazy stuff, and it getting attached, like it gets stapled back to him.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some kind of like brief mention of, "Oh, you've been infected by something, that's why you can still use your hand." They do say that.
Yeah.
And he's got like a weird device thing that tracks BOWs and shit, and I guess it's identifying him as one because he's infected. I don't really know. That might also be another plot hole. How could he not see himself on that monitor if he was mold? Because it tracks all the mold monsters. I feel like they retroactively had to come up with some kind of reason why he could keep fucking reattaching his limbs.
Well, yeah.
They didn't know why. They didn't know what it was. They thought it would just be cool.
I low-key like the idea that he's a mold monster. I still think the shock of Eve telling him, be like, "Huh, what are you, dumb? Like, Jack killed you at the house, and then you became a mold monster, and won." Now I understand your point of view where it's kind of like far-fetched. I truly think they need to make a bridge for that to happen.
I feel like they did something and they wrote themselves into a corner with a certain mechanic, some idea they were trying to present in the last game that had no real good explanation for it.
Mm-hmm.
So they came up with this. And it raises other questions, though, because Mia was infected by mold, but she wasn't killed. Was she?
Yeah, and that's what we don't know about. And here's another plot hole as well.
Little often fills the purse,
when
as they say.
Mia and Ethan had a baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did he make a mold baby?
Yes, I think that's what they're trying to say. And this is another thing. Mia knew that he was. This is just preposterous. It gets to preposterous territory.
Yeah, because she goes, he's different. Because remember, Chris.
No, she said she knew he was dead the entire time. I was like, how did you know that? And nobody else knew that. Like, did Chris and all them and Umbrella and all that, and the BSAA did not know that, and they did all these tests and shit,
Mhm.
and nobody saw irregularities in his blood work or anything like that. And nothing. It just raises too many questions.
That's why I think they need to have the DLC to answer this. Like I said, I like that they continued the story, because they could have just been like, yeah, he's a mold monster, and just like end the story there. But like, but
Seems useful.
but like now they're like making it into like a trilogy in a way, because at the end it goes the father's story's done, which I don't think it's done, by the way. I think Ethan's gonna show up in some form or fashion in 9, because of how Eve showed up in Ethan's. Which, by the way, I call it the Jedi. You know, like in The Force Awakens, how like Rey and Kylo talked in some type of like Force world or whatever. I think Resident Evil 7 and 8 have like the mold world, because remember when Jack was talking to fucking Ethan and shit?
Yeah, like Jack was there, and who else? Somebody else was there too. Was it Zoe?
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
family was there pretty much.
Yeah, and it's like, what the? And that was one of the things in that game that made me go, what the fuck is this? It's just like, this is getting into like weird supernatural territory now, and I'm like, I don't know about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they used to frame this is like what they just put off with this game. They framed supernatural looking things in that they're actually from a virus or a parasite or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't really seem like that at all. Unless there's a mold world. And it seems like maybe there is, because they set up that mega mycene thing, the root mold.
Which, by the way, I think there's more than one, in my opinion.
There was. There was one in the Baker property. And it was different, because they talk about that later in the game a little bit. The Hound Wolf Squad says some stuff about it, just kind of offhanded.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I like how they're having like little experiments throughout the fucking town. Like they have like little fucking tent areas with like little laptops and samples and shit.
I kind of like that. Like when you go back to that church in the village and you see there's like laptops and a bunch of bullshit there. Like, what? You go there and you read this file, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on? What is this shit? But it's cool. It throws you off a little bit. But yeah, apparently there was a root fungal mold under the village, and when it's made everything like a hive mind collective kind of thing, somewhat. And if you die there, your consciousness, your data gets uploaded to it. So I guess Ethan made contact with the root mold thing on the Baker property when that happened, if that's the logic I'm supposed to follow. Because otherwise that makes no sense that happened.
Yeah.
And anyway, like, he gets out of there, and Duke tells him about the jars and how each one of the lords has one. And he's like, you can get them all together, and you can bring her back. And he's just like, bring her, like, that makes no sense to him, but he just fucking brings her back.
Yeah, he does it anyway.
What else are you doing?
So, we'll start off with Benevito. Benevito's house. It starts off very ominous, because you see Mia. You start to have like hallucinations a little bit. The first thing you do is you put your fucking photo in like a slot, a mail slot, and you open up the door to the elevator.
Well, it says, give up your memories.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, what? And then it's like, well, the only thing you think you could fit through this slot's your fucking picture of your family.
Mm-hmm.
So you do that.
Yeah.
And that does feel like something kind of Silent Hill-ish.
Yep.
Also, the way this area looks and it's set up is very cool. Like, you go into it, as you gradually go in, it gets more foggy and misty.
Mm-hmm.
Because the house Benevito is like near a waterfall. It's like in the cliffside of a waterfall, which is like really cool. That would be a fucking badass place to put a house. And when you see the house, it's crazy. It feels like a mansion-ish when you see it. And then you go in, and it's not all that big, but
Yeah,
I kind of wish it was bigger. I don't know.
No, I don't mind it because like you're going into this big house, right? But you're going into small areas, which kind of messes with you. Kind of reminds me of like the Outlook Hotel in The Shining, where all the fucking like rooms and stuff don't add up really well. Because like you go in and then there's like hallways, you're kind of having like a PT moment, and then you end up in this surgery room area with a dummy and stuff, and that's when you kind of get your puzzles a little bit, where you're like you have to do the joints, and then you get the one of the symbols, and then you get the other symbol, and then you notice that you open up the house, which I laughed because I'm like, what, you can't stick your fucking fingers in there?
You need tweezers.
Yeah, you need tweezers, you need you need scissors to open up the bandage while there's like so many sharp items in that room that could
it's hard to rip up bandages with your bare hands.
Yeah.
So I understand that. Yeah, that doll puzzles, it's not difficult or like challenging in any kind of way. It's just move the sticks until you find something. Basically, but yeah, you get left in this basement area, you do this puzzle, and some strange stuff starts happening as you're down there doing that stuff. Start seeing things, the light starts flickering, you hear shit on a radio. Very PT-ish. You get shown a tape of somebody walking down to a well.
Yeah. I didn't understand that part. I mean, I understand what they were doing, but like, oh, you know, that's where I need to go. And obviously, when you do that dumb puzzle with the film, and then it opens up a secret passage, and then you go down this, like, I will admit that area was kind of creepy.
It was creepy. Plus, you started playing this music, and
the baby started laughing and stuff. And that's when I was like, oh, this has a PT feel a little bit. So, like, yeah, and then you get out of there. And long story short, you eventually get to the part where you're like, oh, I'm gonna get out of here.
Such a disappointment.
And then you go down the hallway, and this big fetus
join forces
is
against
just
that bitch
fucking
Miranda.
dragging down the hallways. You know? That's where I'm like, nope, this is scary as fuck a little bit.
It's a very big, gross thing.
Laughing.
To be her children.
Creepily baby laughs, and it's all distorted sounding because it's a giant, gross monster
of being forced to serve her.
And I'm like, oh, this will be some great birth control for some people.
Understand that humiliation.
Some people were making jokes about this is the scariest part of Resident Evil, and it's like when you're holding the baby as Ethan.
I'm not like her.
Okay,
I want nothing more than to be free.
That part was genuinely pretty creepy. I dug it. I dug running from the baby.
Yes.
I need enough power
and hiding and shit.
to destroy her.
He's not too challenging to get away from. Sometimes he can catch you.
These are the fruits of my power.
It's just right.
Yeah,
The strong will destroy the weak. That's the way of the
but
world.
if you know how to play games where you could like
You should have
run
never refused me.
a big dude, pretty much, you'll know how to get around it.
What a
If you play
freak.
horror games, you can get past this.
Yeah. And obviously, you have to get the elevator, you have to get the fuse and stuff. You get that, and then you get out of there. And then that's when you get to the Benevito doll hide and seek thing, where you have to find her. You stab the doll, which apparently kills the actual person that's controlling the doll, which is a little weird, a little bit.
I don't get that. They tried to explain it like she split her Cadeau parasite to her dolls. And I guess most of it was in Ouija or something.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a symbiotic thing. You hurt the doll and hurt her.
Maybe. I don't know. After the baby part, it kind of goes downhill from there a little bit, and then you're just like, let me get out of this house.
Yeah.
And then you
I feel like it could have gone on just a touch more. Like, because when he gets out of that elevator after getting through with this basement baby shit, it really looks like he's tripping on acid at that point.
Yeah.
Like the graphics are kind of fucked up. It's like he's like hallucinating. Like it's very clear something's wrong with him. I feel like they could have, dragged it out a little further, and then you could have had the hide and seek fight with scissors.
I think it would have been hilarious, like shotgunning the doll, but
That'd just be too easy.
yeah. But I would
You get to do that. You get to do that mercenaries mode.
Yep, which is fun. But after we get past that part, we go into Moreau's area. Moreau's area is like probably easy as hell because there's like 3 areas. Like you go into the little train yard cave area, you see him puking.
Yeah, you're in that mine, and yeah, this is another thing that makes me think Ethan's dumb. Was this part where like he sees him in there, like he's just staring at a TV and vomiting. He's like, I'll do anything. He's like simping for her.
Yep.
The jar for Rose, I guess it's her arm.
It's right there.
Yeah, it's like right there, and he just like
Stairs.
grabs it. He actually grabs it from him, and then he says he could have just left. I'll be taking this, asshole. Essentially is what he says. And he turns around and sees him. He's like, no, and he begs for him not to take it from him because he's like, oh, the other ones will laugh at me. They hate me. And he's like, and he fucking indulges him talking to him like this weird monster man. And he's just like, I don't care if everybody hates you. What the fuck do I care? And he has a conversation with this guy, and he starts laughing at him. He's like, you're dumb. You talk too much. While you were talking to me, I spread my snot everywhere. There's like a bunch of green pus shit that's trapped you there.
And you have to like hit it with your knife or gun or something.
Yeah, he doesn't realize that you can just hit it twice with a fucking butter knife and get out of there.
Yeah. So, like, you're going through that area, and obviously you get to the part where you're on top of the roof because you have to drain the water to fight him at the end. And then that's when you get the little puzzle thing with the platforms, and you drain the swamp. There's a
swamp.
Yeah. Drain the swamp, do it. It's gonna be great, huge. But then you fight him, and like I said, he vomits in the sky, and then you have his belly gets big, and you shoot him. And then
I kind of like that mechanic where he would like vomit his acid shit and made acid rain. You had to hide. It was kind of interesting.
But they kind of like show you where to hide, which kind of annoys me a little bit because they like mark it in yellow.
It's a little too obvious. Well, everybody likes to do that in games now. They like to mark this shit where you're supposed to go with like bright primary colors. It's like, who the fuck would spend time painting this ladder haphazardly yellow? Like, it's not even painted well. It's just like somebody fucking slapped some paint on it. And you can still see some of the wood. It's just, this is shoddy craftsmanship. This is shoddy craftsmanship, game designers.
They tried to do a little mini puzzle without the platform area, but like there's a part where you have to like push shit, and then like you have to you're like, oh, you gotta shoot the ladder, and I'm just like, come on guys, like that's the only thing that's one of the things that kind of get me down a little bit is that the stuff was like way too easy at some point, even on hardcore. I was just like, oh, this is what I gotta do, okay, whatever. This was very much for casual people, even on the hard level difficulty. Kind of annoys me a little bit. Which I think if I would have upped my difficulty, you would think that the puzzles would be harder. Maybe like lichens would just drop out of the sky or be in the house during that area.
Or maybe they should just do what Silent Hill did, which is you have action difficulty and you have riddle difficulty. They call it riddle. Yeah.
I need
something to think about, guys.
I want to play. I want to go through the Silent Hill games
Someday.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do a thing like we do with Metal Gear and fucking this though, where we play all the games, try to talk about them, because I don't think I can do that after.
Oh no, I think we would pick the games that we want to do, because I don't want to do all of them. But after you get past that part, that's when you see. Well, one, you get the.
Oh, during that is when he runs into
Chris.
Hound Wolf Squad and Chris though.
Yeah. And
like he's still like hostile to Chris because he's like, you fucking killed me and now do me, asshole. And then like Moreau comes and then he's like, get down, Ethan, and he saves you. And then it's like,
why?
What?
Yeah.
Is Chris still good guy? I think so.
Yeah, and then you get past that part, and then you go into. Well, that's when you see on the TV with Heisenberg, the come to me, Molotov. I have a proposition for you.
I've got a proposition for you. You just need to go to the flask. You can go there and get the flask if you want it right now. It's all yours. Just go get it. And then he's like, you're an asshole or something. He called him an asshole. It's like, who told you could just go fucking get it? I mean, like, I don't know. I guess he kind of set you up for a little bit of a trap, but...
Yeah. So Heisenberg is supposed to be the Lucas of the group from 7.
Yeah.
Because 1, he's communicating you through a TV, and 2, he kind of does like all those traps kind of thing, a little bit.
He just got traps, and he designs weird shit, and
Yeah. So, Stronghold is a pain, even on normal. Because because what I was doing before, I was just shooting them, but they just kept on coming, and I didn't notice that until like I started running out of bullets.
He kind of tricks you into fighting. It's like, oh, they're just gonna keep spawning guys till you leave.
Yeah. And some of the guys were like Tarzaning off of fucking vines and shit after you, which was pretty hilarious. I laughed a little bit. And then that's when we got the part where the big guy with the axe shows up and you're in a small area. And I had no bullets, by the way. I had to run with all the bullets pretty much that were in that area, and I won. I had a couple of pipe bombs. So I shot really well, and then I threw the bombs and I somehow won. And Lycans had some items as well, so the Lycans came in and helped out a little bit. For me, more than him.
Thanks to your consistent patronage, I've expanded my services.
So we get past that part,
choose
and then obviously Heisenberg like fucking taunts you and shit, but come here, bitch, and like you go.
He doesn't call you a bitch.
He says something.
He's like, I don't think he directly insults you, but he's just like, all right, you got the flask, good job. Now,
fruits of your exploration.
You can talk.
Ah,
yes.
Yes.
He's just like, no, I don't fucking trust you. He's like, just do it. Don't be a pussy. And he's like, fine, all right, I'll go.
Do you have enough firepower? I can now offer an expanded weapon modification service.
I don't think anything else happens between them. Like, you do
it's
Stronghold
fine.
and you just go. You put the shit in the Giant's Chalice, all the flasks.
The first one you see like a vision of Miranda, apparently.
Yeah, like he remembers something. It's like, what are you having like memory gaps? Like, what
Got
the
a
hell
long
is
way to
this?
go.
Yeah. I mean, the factory is long.
It's this area is weird because like at first, when I first played through it, I didn't really like it that much. But when I played through it again, I didn't mind it as much at all. And actually, I got through it pretty quick, and that was just. And I did everything. I even did some stuff that I skipped last time. Like I forgot to do the.
Miranda thinks we're
puzzle.
nothing but children.
I totally missed the room it was in.
Oh, she doesn't care for us. No.
And I didn't
She's
find
all
the
lost
ball
all her
mold
humanity.
because you have to make the ball there. You don't just find it. So if you're like, where's the ball at? That's why you gotta find the mold and then you gotta make the ball and the casting iron thing.
This reminds me of the part in 7 where you're about you know, like the cave area with the molds and shit. And you're
Yeah,
trying
the salt mines.
yeah, it reminds me of that area.
A little bit, yeah. I didn't really mind the salt mine that much. I was gonna say that this kind of reminds me of something I forgot to mention earlier, which was there was a couple treasures I missed the first time I played. That's fine. I don't expect to get everything the first time I play, even though I look. But I got a treasure that I couldn't find the other piece for, no matter what I did. And I had like a key that I had nothing for it to go to. And I was like, what the hell does this key go to? I went through the whole game and never found out what it went to.
Yeah.
That whole area where you leave Heisenberg's weird trap maze way back in the beginning of the game, and you're walking through like those old ruins and shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a room in those ruins where there's a chest that's locked and you need a key for it. That's where the key goes.
Really?
It's a treasure chest. It's like, you know how it marks all the treasure chests on your map?
Mm-hmm.
Let you know, hey, this is where some really good expensive shit is. Guess what? It never marks that that's a treasure chest on your map. It never marks that that's even a room on your map. It's unmarked.
Yeah.
You get like a gem to put in a necklace. Apparently it's Lady D's necklace that you make.
Okay. I've seen
like
people with...
It's like the necklace her daughters wear.
Mm-hmm.
It gets a lot of money, actually. It's kind of worth getting.
I gotta try to get it.
Yeah. That thing with in the factory where I found the room where the labyrinth was reminded me of that, because I just totally somehow missed it. But the factory's a little confusing at first, and it does feel long the first time you do it. But I promise you, when you go through the game again, it's a breeze, because you know exactly what you need to do and where to go.
Yeah.
It's no longer than any other area of the game. It's just fucking kind of obtuse in how you traverse it.
I like what Resident Evil does with their different, because it's never one area the same. Every area has its own theme. Kind of like with the old Resident Evil, it's like you have the main area, then basement, then sewer, then laboratory, or whatever final area there is, or train or helicopter you get out of. But another thing I want to say is there's a part, I love all the enemies in the factory because they're Borg-like and they're all like steampunk and they have these drills and shit.
And they get tougher too. It's like first you just run across like the VR headsets on, and they're not that much of a threat. Then you run into the guys that have the Soldats. Slowly, as you progress, they get upgraded. Like they have like armor plating, and then there's one that has even more armor plating, and then there's one that has like a weird jet propulsion system on it, so it can jump around the environment.
Yeah.
And there's one that's just a straight up tank, and it's just got a bunch of fucking armor on it.
Yeah.
And you gotta knock all that shit off eventually.
And that's when you eventually get to the propeller boss battle, where you
Sturm.
running into the wall, you gotta shoot him, roll him up at some point.
I like that note where he talks about how he chopped his own arms off and it was a failure.
Yeah.
but he's still alive. It's like he kept him in that hole.
Did you know that? I don't know if it's a direct taken from it, but Hitler's Army. Ever see the movie?
No, I know about this. You're talking about like how that guy said that he got plagiarized because they ripped off his propeller monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that.
It looks similar.
It's very maybe that dude watched that movie and thought that was cool, and it's not really a new movie anymore, right?
No.
Yeah, it's a movie from a little while back. Maybe he thought, oh, I could make my own version of a propeller. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. People seem to be making a real big deal out of it. I guess that guy feel like kind of hurt, but I would look at it as a homage. I mean, what's he really get out of it?
Yeah, he's not gonna get money out of it.
And what's the guy get out of it that made that monster exactly? He had to come up with a monster for that area. It's not like he's getting fucking royalty. It's the same deal you had. You had to make a monster for that scene in that movie.
Yep.
What's the difference does it make? I don't know.
So
I would look at it as a compliment. This dude he kind of took your idea and made it his own spin on it, so to speak.
His B-rated movie. He just wants money. It's clearly he wants money.
You
But
don't get any. He's talking
yeah.
about a fucking 10-year-old B movie or something.
Yeah. But anyway, you do that, and then you meet up with Chris, and he tells you about Mia finally, and says that, well, he doesn't know Mia's alive yet, Chris. He thinks
Yeah. You get thrown down a hole, and then, because this part gets you the first time you play. And he's like, again? Because he feels like he has to climb all the way up this shit again. You're like, are you fucking kidding me? Because I was kind of mad at first.
Yeah, me too.
But then Chris shows up, and he disarms you, and he's like, all right, sit down in this chair, and I'm going to fix this tank while I'm talking to you, and I'm going to fill in the plot. Which, yeah, he does what you talk about. He explains what happens with the beginning and everything, and how he's there to help fucking put him in this shit. He's going to help him get Rose back. And everything's good. Chris is good.
And then he says, give me a wrench. That's when he explains everything. Yeah. And then you learn about the mech that he was building, I guess, while he was going through the factory, I'm guessing. Which is weird.
I don't know why he built, he built a tank out of, composite materials. And it's like, why would Heisenberg build something that he knows he couldn't control with his powers? Doesn't make any sense. That's that's another weird plot hole thing.
Yeah. So you get into this mech thing, right? You have a chainsaw and you have a rocket launcher, I guess, whatever, cannon, and a machine gun. You go in there, and then you have the Metal Gear fight. We already explained about that. It was cool. Yeah. And then after that,
there's a part during that fight where his factory explodes because Chris says, "I'm gonna plant explosives." And
She'll start her
factory's
ceremony with
He's
your
full of monsters and
bros.
shit.
mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
If that happens,
And he blows
it's
up
all
though,
over.
and Heisenberg's like, "No,
For
my
your
factory."
kids. That's
He's
the
like, and he
whole
blames it
village.
on Chris. It's like he knew he was
Don't
there or
worry.
something.
Did you catch
I'll
his diss,
stop.
by the way?
And he's like, "A
I'll
boomer
use
punching
Rose
asshole."
to
And
kill
I'm
Miranda.
Yes.
actually got a laugh out of it.
I laughed.
Poor
Like,
Papa.
everybody knows it's
The
absurd.
only one who
So,
doesn't
like,
see
How does
your kid's
Heisenberg know Chris
power.
punches boulders?
It's just it's kind of like
Take
the
Rose?
Duke thing, right? It's like
Yeah, I
I'd
know.
like to see you try.
it's hilarious, but maybe he read up on Chris. Maybe.
Maybe
There's
that
more?
was in the report. There was a gas leak in Africa, and Chris Redfield punched a boulder in a volcano. Something.
So we defeat Heisenberg, and then that's when we start getting the story of
More story.
yeah, and well, first Mia rips his fucking heart out. Not Mia, Mother Miranda,
Why does he fall for that?
because he's stupid.
I guess he is. I've been complaining about how fucking stupid he is, the stupid shit he says, and how he reacts to stuff not correctly. And it's just like he knows already that, okay, the first time he saw a weird ghostly illusion thing, and he figured out that wasn't real. And again, his wife's coming up to him and she's talking weird, that's not what she would talk like. And I guess he's just a dumbass. I don't know. It just bothers me.
Yep.
Your coin.
But she kills him.
Good deal, if I say so
And,
myself.
and you're just like, once she does Kano's fucking finisher move, rips the heart out.
She literally just shoves her hand into his chest and pulls his heart out, and he's like,
And does a sponge, and all the fucking blood just goes all over her face. And
sick.
then he dies. Well, you think he dies. And then it goes to Chris, and then he goes into the, I guess, Mother Miranda's house, whatever, laboratory.
He's he goes through the whole village I like this part of the game a lot. Do you?
Yes.
Yeah, like it's cool because it's a nice break because you spend the whole game kind of like conserving ammo and being careful and you know all this other stuff, all this other survival horror stuff, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you get to play as Chris, and he's got like high-powered fucking
It's dark.
bio weapon assault rifles and shit, and grenades and umbrella medicine injectors.
Yes.
And he's just like ripping, he's just tearing ass through this village. He's like killing like a bunch of these fucking Lycans.
Yeah, you just burst fire like your P90 and like the heads explode and you're not.
He's got like a laser thing, and you get to like hit giant mold monsters with like orbital strikes or something.
I was like, this is Call of Duty Chris. Like it was fun.
It was okay though because it wasn't the whole game. It was just like you play as Chris for like maybe about half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, and it's not that the whole time either because yeah, there's this part where you get down into like this little lair area, and it's Miranda's lab apparently.
And this is where I love it because one, you learn about all the lords, by the way, where they were experiments, and then you read. Well, one, you look at all the pictures and stuff, and apparently she never ages because of her shape-shifting. And then you read a letter from a guy named Spencer. And
Oswell Spencer ran into her a long time ago.
and
Found this like weird logo all over the village and shit.
and plagiarized it.
He decided, like, it reminds me of an umbrella. We had that conversation, so that's why I helped start my company and I called it Umbrella.
I really enjoyed that because I'm like, holy shit! Like, it makes you think. And I know it probably didn't happen because this was a shoe-in character, Mother Miranda. But I'm kind of like, maybe there is some female character if I go back and play the old games that they kind of mention without nailing it on the head.
I don't think so. I don't recall anything like that.
But it like I said, it kind of like reboots it a little bit for me, in my opinion.
It kind of plays with the story again, and it wreaks havoc on some shit that they establish a little bit.
Yeah, because he's like, Mother Miranda wants to do something where you could live forever, right? And it helps people. And
I didn't think so. It felt like a more selfish thing. Like she wanted to. Basically, all she cared about was getting her daughter back.
yeah, I mean, it's still saving a life and having
At a whole village's expense, though.
yeah.
That's the thing. Like she sacrifices this entire village for that.
But Spencer goes, I like your idea, but I'm gonna make it into a virus.
And here's the other thing, though. This fucks with, like, again, this goes against some stuff that they did previously, which is like, remember in Resident Evil 5?
Mm-hmm.
You have the Lost in Nightmares DLC, and it kind of shows you what happens when they raid Spencer's estate, his other estate that he's at, and then like it kind of reveals why he did all this virus shit to begin with, which is he basically wanted to live forever. Is what he said. He didn't want to die. It's like that's what all this was for, was so he could live forever. I feel like that's not correct. That doesn't line up with like what was presented. And then like now here, it seems like it's going back to what the original intent was. Because he doesn't mention anything like living forever and all this shit. He's just like, your idea is interesting, but I think that as a virus could be more widespread. It could be applied better.
Yeah.
What?
I like it. I think they could play with it now. I think it rejuvenates. I can't even say that word, but you know what I'm going with.
Rejuvenates
The franchise, yeah. And that's where you could be like, well, Code Veronica and all that stuff. They could mess around with that. They could mess around with the 4 and all that. So that's ideas because it does mention that it was worldwide what Spencer did, and that's why he had the Africa and
Well then, feel
Eastern
free
European
to
and all that
peruse.
stuff. But anyway, Chris goes into a room like a cell area, And lo and behold,
Do
it's
let me know
Mia.
if you find anything else of value.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck is going on here?
And he's like, holy shit. He literally says like, holy shit, it's her.
Well, first he goes, wait, and he says, he asks one of his hound
You
buddies,
really
he's like,
are
is Mia in
tough.
front of you? And he's like, yeah, Mia's here. Not Mia.
But I am
Okay.
tired.
Mother
You
Miranda.
think that?
Miranda's in front of you, right? And
Time
he's like,
to
yeah,
die.
she's right here. It's like, I found Miranda
You can hear
Winters.
it.
He's like, Miranda Winters?
you.
Holy fuck.
Someone.
And
Wait.
that's when he's like, all right, let's go. Or he says, stay here. And then he's like, I have some bad news, like Ethan's dead. And that's when she goes, Ethan's special. And I'm like, what? And then we get to the next scene where Ethan is in
I don't
the
have time for
Force
this
Mold
bullshit.
world
Out of my way!
with Eve, where Eve's talking to Ethan, telling him that, didn't you think it was funny that you were always getting hurt and all that stuff and nothing was happening to you? And then she's like, you were dead the whole time when Jack killed you at the house in Louisiana. And I was like, holy shit, that's kind of, in my opinion, I think it's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of outlandish, and I still think, like you said, they need to, like, bridge the gap a little bit to kind of explain it a little more. Maybe have a DLC where, whether you do that in journals or whether you do that in some type of bridge from 7 to 8, that would explain it a little better. I don't know. I don't know. But, I was like, holy shit. And then he ends up in Duke's fucking carriage. And that's when we got that weird line. He's like, you know, you're gonna step out into the world is gonna be different. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And then, you know, you're in the ceremony area before defeating Mother Miranda, going to battle Mother Miranda. That's when you build up and you can buy one more stuff from Duke before you go into battle. And you go to Mother Miranda's lair, I guess, whatever that is. And she like takes Rose out of like a moldy area podium thing.
Moldy podium.
Moldy podium, and Rose is like all in one piece. And my favorite part is Chris shoots fucking Mother Miranda, and all you hear is Chris go, "Quick, get her!" And fucking Ethan grabs Rose, and then they have like a tug of war, and like Mother Miranda puts fucking Rose on like a mold or whatever, and like puts it high up in the air in a battle. Which we already discussed the boss battle. It was like shoot, and then you would get flamethrower by her little balls, but you shot her too much to get to that point. And
yeah, I saw it. It's just I ignored that. I thought, shoot.
yeah,
And it worked.
and then you defeat her, and I mean, and then obviously this is the part where it gets interesting because now Ethan's apparently dying. His body can't take it anymore. His mold powers are gone. Yeah, and Chris takes Rose. Ethan stays behind to blow up the what they call that thing again?
The Megamycete.
The Megamycete. And he blows up the Megamycete. Mia, Chris, and his hound squad are on the plane, and they have an infected BSAA person. And they're like,
the BSA drops in like during that whole segment with Chris, and then he's like kind of talking about the and then that happens. And I don't know, they look kind of incompetent and dumb. And then yeah, that's like the big reveal that this guy is a bioweapon. He looks like a
zombie.
He looks kind of like a zombie a little bit or something. Yeah.
So I wonder, do you think it's going to be DLC, or do you think this could be
I think it's going to be something that they tackle and it gets into the game. So after all that's over, it shows this girl on the bus, who's this mom and her kid, and they're reading the story, and she has the book from the beginning of the game, and it's like, oh, is that? And then you can see she's wearing Ethan's jacket. It's like, oh, it must be Rose, I guess. then it confirms she visits Ethan's grave. Does things. I'm visiting. Sorry, I got more tests to do and whatnot. And then like a government agent, like, you know, is there to get her.
Yeah.
Like, all right, you gotta go. And call her Evelyn for some reason. I don't know why you would taunt her like that, especially if she's supposed to be like really strong.
And then she says, you know, even Chris doesn't know about these powers.
Okay.
And
you want me to take her out? There's like a sniper. Okay, no, it's fine. I got it.
yeah. So that makes me worried for me because let's finish up the scene because like after this scene, she goes down. They go down a road and they pick somebody up. Who is it? You think?
I don't know if they pick them up. There's somebody off in the distance and they stop the car there. And some nerds have taken the scene apart and figured out it was Ethan's character model.
Yeah, but
oh my god, it's Ethan. I'm like,
I think it's a placeholder.
just be a fucking placeholder.
Yeah.
I don't know if you should read it. Yeah, that's kind of stupid.
The car stopped though, and the apparition did go near the car. So
Maybe it was somebody else. Maybe it was Chris.
maybe it was the sniper.
Maybe it was Jill. Where's Jill?
Yeah. Where's Leon?
Where's Barry?
Yeah, where is Barry?
Barry. Where's Barry? You know, that was kind of it. It says like his father's story is over now.
Yeah, that makes me worried now because now are we playing as Rose now, the daughter? Because I don't know if we would play as Mia because Mia's weird.
Mia's got
Yeah. But like Rose has these powers. Now are we gonna be playing with paranormal shit? Because that's lame. Because I like what they did with Ethan because he didn't know he was a mold monster.
You really are
or a moldy.
tough one.
And it wasn't like really like he had. It was just like how the fuck can this guy keep like putting his
Time
hand
to die.
Yeah.
stuff like that.
You can hear it.
So I hope
Can't
like
you?
Rose is not like I could shoot like mold out of my veins like Spider-Man or something. And
Mold,
yeah, and I hope they don't do that in 9. Because if they do, I think that's gonna kill whatever momentum they had.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. That's kind of like where after I finish this game, I'm like, well, this is weird. I don't know where they could take this next because it's like obviously Ethan's done. I feel like if they brought him back as any kind of a playable character or whatever, that's stupid.
Yeah.
They're already kind of digging a hole with this plot, in my opinion. It's not that deep right now, but it could get deeper if you don't stop and get out.
The only thing I could see them doing is you play as Chris fighting the BSAA the next game. So they would have to do it like really quickly because BSAA is like a problem now.
Like, this raises a bunch of other questions too. It's like, one, we don't know how much time has passed. What if Rose grew up really fast as a result of like 8 years old?
Still, that's another thing we don't know about. It's
Because
like,
they did that to Evelyn, remember? It's like they made her mature really quickly or whatever because of the mold stuff. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Maybe that's the same thing. So maybe Chris still isn't that old.
yeah, and
Because if it was really like 16 years or 18 years past or whatever, like fucking old man. Old man Chris.
yeah, I don't know. This game made me interested into the characters. I will give them that. And like I said, I enjoyed the story. There's definitely plot holes that need to be talked about in DLC.
And there's something else about this shit. Like, one of the throwaway lines, we've addressed this before. People don't play Resident Evil 4. Like, the story's always been dumb in Resident Evil. That's not true. Yeah, there's like cheesy elements to it and stuff, but no. You're just thinking about like those silly cutscenes from the first game and shit. It's just, for some reason, that's forever colored the perception of that series for some reason. I don't know why, even after all this time. Or Resident Evil 4, where like it's kind of like half-assed joke, because Leon just says funny thing like I'm kind of like confused and wondering what they're going to do after this. Like I did get into the story somewhat of it. It seems like I'm kind of picking at it, and I can't help it. It's just things I'm noticing. It's raising too many questions for me. I got problems with it, but I still enjoyed it. For what it is. I'm also kind of nervous though, because after I played this game, I kind of sort of felt like I played a game where they put in all the stuff, all the data they had collected from the last couple of years, people's responses to things. I like this and I like this, and it sort of feels designed by community.
Now stay down.
A little bit.
Like how they kind of copied the formula from RE7. Almost exactly. And it's like, I don't think you can do that a third time and get away with it.
No, they would have to. I think the story would have to stand out. And I think you would have to. I think it needs to be a trilogy. You know, you had Resident Evil 7. Then you had Resident Evil 8, and then you have Resident Evil 9 will close out the story. I don't think you can continue it after 9. You have to end it there.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, Rose... See, I don't want her... You would think Rose would have to be a sacrifice, but I think Chris is going to sacrifice himself. I think Chris is going to be the sacrificer this time.
Maybe.
Yeah, but that's a story. We're almost fucking 3 hours in here.
I know. A lot of stuff to talk about, though.
Bonus modes and unlockables. Let's get that out of the way. Mercenaries, what do you think of it?
It's good. It's pretty fun to play in spurts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they should have called this Mercenaries, because it is and it isn't at the same time. It's weird. Because you only play as one character. And that was one of the things about all these modes, was it was an opportunity to play as other characters with different loadouts and shit.
Yeah.
And you can change your loadout to whatever. It's done a little differently. You start out with like a certain amount of money and like a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of up to you to like use this money and get through these stages earning more money. Just,
What the?
do I want to buy a better gun? Do I want to buy other shit or upgrade the stuff I have? So you kind of figure out like a loadout strategy. And you just go through stages and kill stuff and
Not
try to keep
bad.
the time
Not
up and
bad.
sort of mercenaries.
You're persistent, but I've got a rebellion.
It's fun. It's a really good highlight
So
on
stay
how
out
good
of
the
it.
combat is. It's like a bunch of enemies and all that. Not boss fights. It's good. It's a good extra mode. Because it's missing.
Okay. Well, I just enjoyed it because it's an extra thing for me to play on top of it.
It's fun. It's
Yeah.
that's just what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think they needed to be different than compared to the other thing, but like you said, why call it mercenaries? Call it like time trials or whatever.
That
I don't know
bastard.
what you would have called it.
Yeah.
Why can't you play as Chris too? At least. I don't know.
Yeah, with his weapons and shit, that would be fun. Anything else unlockables? I didn't really get to see all the unlockables. I just know the mercenaries and stuff.
We kind of touched on that stuff earlier when we were talking about the store. Like concept art, you can unlock extra guns. You have to do multiple playthroughs to get other guns. There's a double-bladed lightsaber or something you can get if you get double S's on all the mercenary stages, which is really hard.
Yeah,
How the scoring system works.
I told you to leave it alone, Ethan.
it's a tad difficult.
You are in the way.
I don't know if I can
What do
do
you
that.
care, Chris? You killed
Probably a
my
lot of
wife, you
practice.
son of a bitch!
You think I
that's
killed
what I
Mia?
That wasn't her.
The concept
Miranda.
is really cool. I
What?
recommend people check that out if they want to learn more.
She's a
about,
bioweapon.
you know, their thought process.
changed her
behind
appearance and
designing
pretended
this
to be
game and
Mia.
stuff. Because that
Seems she also
thing,
survived
I
being
can
shot,
pick
so
up
now
the
I'm here to finish
story
the
and
job.
pick in some other things, but
Bullshit!
all the
Why don't
locations.
you fucking tell me right away? Because I knew you would want to be involved.
Nice
And this job is hard enough without civilians getting in the way.
That's,
Chris.
that's about it for unlockables. I don't think.
What
I've
the hell
found
is
one.
going on?
Yeah,
Other than you get the Village of Shadows extra
All right.
super hard difficulty when you finish the game.
All right.
well, if you bought
guess
the
I owe you an
deluxe edition,
explanation.
you get it right away. I got the deluxe edition.
I did.
Hand me
I
that
missed
wrench.
Yeah. The journal entries that I like is the Spencer one. I like that one, and all the Heisenberg ones where you'd be like, oh, this person does this, like the drill and
Long
the
story
propeller
short,
one, like they
Miranda's
describe
fucking
that
insane.
stuff, and also Mother
In
Miranda.
this village, all these monsters and freaks.
Lady D,
This is her life's work.
Moreau,
Some
Benevito,
sort of
and Heisenberg,
crazy
and all
experiment.
that stuff.
Mold.
Yeah, you know, actually, a lot of the journals and stuff in this game were like
Louisiana.
really short.
God
Mhm.
damn it.
They were usually
this
just
time,
one page,
I
and
thought I could
sometimes they would
save my
be a
family.
paragraph. It'd just be
I
like
can't
a
escape
couple
from here.
sentences. It's like, oh.
I can't do anything.
I think they were catering to the
That might not be true.
casuals, which
Well,
pisses
or
me off.
read.
Take a look
Yeah.
at this.
I don't like reading.
My men sent those
Fuck, you
pictures a
sit
few
there on
minutes ago.
Twitter and read shit all day. You can't
Keep
read
looking.
something that's actually structured and grammatically correct and spelled right.
Well, how am
Oh,
I
shit,
gonna
we
trend?
gotta go.
Zach?
Relax,
I
my
need
men
to
are
do
monitoring the
TikTok
situation.
trends
But they
and
have
post
my
it on
daughter.
Twitter.
Fuck
You don't get
trends.
it. You don't stand a chance against Miranda by yourself.
Any personal stories about this game with you?
I feel like talking about this game after we just finished
I
it
will
is
stay
our
down here and
personal
finish planting
story.
explosives.
Yeah, I agree.
You take that elevator.
Like
I'll meet you
I've spent
topside.
like years and years
promise
playing
you,
this
we
game.
will
and
get your
it just
daughter
came
back.
out.
Well, it's funny
Together.
because I highly like
Damn
it,
straight
and you
you are.
like it, but
And
not
when I
as much
find
as I
Miranda,
do. So it's kind of interesting
She's
seeing
a dead woman.
our opinions on why we like it. It's more of a
Alright.
personal preference for both of us.
You
but
take this.
It's,
Yeah.
it's,
do me a favor.
It's nice seeing that.
Try to
I've
stay
kind
on
of
the
noticed that
radar.
about people's reception to it though. Like nobody's said. I've seen a couple real off-base people say like this game's not good, and
You can't turn back
frankly
now.
they're coming off like contrarian assholes or those people that still want these games to be fixed camera and expect that, and that's never gonna fucking happen again. And just get over it already.
There's a lot of people like that, and I used to be in that camp. I used to be in that camp where it'd be like, what is this? It's action? Oh, what is it's stupid? It's not like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3. And then I got to the point I'm like, wow, these games are actually pretty okay. Like, why did I like diss it so much?
I don't know. This comes from somebody that loves those games, loves that shit, and I'd love to have another game like that. And finally, some people are starting to get to a point where they're making original games like that. We're finally kind of reaching that point with indie game design.
Yeah.
But it's just not gonna happen. You need to let it go, or just stay out of. Why do you want to continue following this series if you feel
Metal
like
polymer
it's left
composite,
you
huh?
behind a long
Time to fight
ago?
fire with fire.
What the fuck's the point in that?
I don't know, but it's time for some lightning round.
I'm coming,
who do you
Rose.
prefer to play as? There's only two, Ethan or Chris. Chris.
I prefer to play as Lady D, but I can't. So, Chris. I don't even know if you only play as Chris for like a really short time.
Yeah, but I wish I played him a little bit other times without the Call of Duty weapons.
That would be kind of interesting. But I feel like he's always going to have those Call of Duty weapons because he's ready.
Maybe he just gets thrown into some area where Moreau's mucus surrounds him like a portal, and Lady D swipes at people, his hound people.
Mucus portal.
Yeah, mucus portal. What is your favorite boss? I'll go first. Mother Miranda.
I guess I'm still going with Lady D. just 'cause I'm crazy. But my favorite person is Lady D.
Here you go. Same here. Favorite part of the game?
Castle.
Castle. Yep. Favorite weapons? I'm gonna go with Magnum and
Are you talking about the first one you get?
You're like a goddamn cockroach!
It's
You
called.
think you can take me on?
It's so weird. Why would you pick the game?
This'll be my warm-up before I kill you, bitch.
Even though they get like if they really want to be active,
And now, your corpse will be another addition to my army!
it's a still action revolver with 650 caliber bullets. And I'm like, how fucking 650 caliber bullets with me? Just saying. But whatever, it's fine. I still love it because it's. I was complaining about how in the past couple of days they didn't put revolvers on it. What? What the hell? Are you scared of putting revolvers? Finally, I got it. You know it's solid.
I need rule!
And my other one is the first shotgun.
First shotgun.
So this is the power of fatherly love.
I haven't played with all of them. I do like the Magnum.
Oh, don't give up!
The grenade launcher's sick. I feel like it's negative power to move.
Yeah,
It's not really strong. I want to get
Face of my steel glory! Just like you understand that bitch, Miranda Bliss. I'll kill her with the power she gave me. That's what I call being a good son! I've felt 20 years into the bitch's thumb. Rangers are nothing but a bunch of worthless peons. I'm a goddamn freedom fighter!
Alright, I'm gonna go first because I think mine might shock you, but as a person who's been in the camp of old school Resident games, I really enjoy it. So I'm gonna go for the 3 Resident Evil 2 Remake, number 2 Resident Evil 3, and number 1 Resident Evil Village. Now the reason why I put that is because it's been a really long time that the game had a
Here we go! The final stretch!
I think
What do you think?
to end.
It's
There was never a point where
right.
I was like, oh, this is boring to me. Play it over and over again.
This isn't David and Goliath.
But
It's Ethan.
that's
and
why
the
I have
burning
more of a
eyes.
I'm not
Well done, like the world's watching.
Yes. So, where do you have it at?
I have this is my list now. It's Resident Evil 1 Remake, RE2
So long, Ethan Winters! You really should have taken my deal.
7.
Okay.
You'll be foes in the afterlife.
Those are is 9, 5, and 10.
Rose's power and blood. Right after I murdered Miranda. This can't be the end for me. I must kill her.
So mine's kind of, I put RE8 a little bit in the middle of the pack for me.
Am I missing something?
Are you? Maybe I screwed up my own number count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3,
I heard
4, 5,
explosions.
6,
What the
7,
hell
8,
happened?
9, 10.
I dealt with
11,
Heisenberg.
12, 13,
Now I'm gonna
14,
find
15,
Miranda
16,
and get Rose
17.
back.
Not without
Maybe
me.
I
It's too
didn't.
dangerous.
Maybe you
Wait
already
there, you hear me?
accounted for the fact that there was going to be RE8.
Rose?
And I just added an extra
Ethan.
number for no reason.
I think you did, yeah.
It doesn't matter. We'll fix it later. But
I'm pretty sure something new is going to come out anyway. We're
yeah,
not,
so
A child.
whatever. I made another space.
She's
for a game
so
that's gonna
important, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
RE4
She's everything
remake.
to me.
I don't think we accounted for that.
And mine to me.
But
With Heisenberg
like,
gone,
I like it
you've
better than
lost your
Resident Evil 3
lead.
remake so far. And
What are
like,
you going
there's
to do?
things
I don't
about
know,
it that
but
kind
I'm
of bug
saving
me.
Rose.
It's mostly story.
You'd
related.
never know,
Um,
do you?
One thing I didn't really get to get into
Even
that
when I took
much
Mia's
that
place in
also
your
did kind of
home.
underwhelm me was like the
Poor
music in the game, the
Ethan.
soundtrack.
Who are
yeah,
you?
7 had a
Where's
better
Rose?
soundtrack.
8's soundtrack was almost non-existent. There's
Yeah.
there's some music, but for the most part,
Enough.
they're kind of doing that ambient thing, almost like in RE2.
Remember
Remake's default
Evelyn and her
soundtrack, where
power
it's
over
like-
them all?
They almost had no
Rose
music, and
is
the
her
game suffered
successor.
for it, in my opinion.
No. Rose is
I don't like
Evelyn's
that.
true, complete form.
Hopefully
She
they
will grow to
stop
fully
doing that and go
control
back to like what they did in 7.
And I must have her.
But like,
Fuck you crazy
I don't know. I
bitch!
don't want to get too into this. How could you possibly put Resident Evil 1 above Resident Evil 8?
Oh
Calm
no, I think
yourself.
we're going to get into that when we
Rose
finally
Rose.
rank everything.
Whatever.
The
that's
Mega
gonna
My
be.
Seat catalogs all
So
of
I
us.
want to save that for another time because we're at like 3
However,
hours.
She
and I'm
will
pretty
be
sure
reborn as my
People who don't have
She's
a
my
good
child,
attention
not
span are probably like, well, fuck them. Well, fuck them. Who cares?
Where
I
are
don't
you?
care.
Show yourself.
Why did
Fuck you
Rose
all.
come to be?
But we do need to
Was
end
it
it here.
because of her?
That was our.
And you
What?
are truly
So there's not much else to say anyway.
Yeah, I
But
think
I've
we
learned
covered a
all I
lot.
can.
That
Your
was our
worth
final
as a lab
countdown.
rat is
The next game we're going to
Miranda,
be tackling is
coward.
Resident Evil 7,
Come on and
and
face
we're going to
me.
hit up all the DLC.
Are we doing 7 next? I thought we were doing Revelation next.
Don't worry.
Yeah, let's do
Your
predictions.
death
Because we were, I thought
You
we
will
were
join
going
the Mega
chronological
Mice
order for the most part.
Yeah, let's do Rev 1. And Rev 1 has a lot of DLC, right?
I will make sure to sample your blood for later.
No.
Once dawn breaks, the
not
ceremony
really.
will be
Okay.
complete, and I will
Alright, so
become
we're
her
going to do
true
Revelations
mother.
1. And we're
Bound
going to tackle
for
that, and then
eternity.
we're going to talk about it. First, we've got to play it. So, how long will that take? Who knows? But we did 2 Resident Evils in the span of a month, so
I've
That's
waited
good.
so long.
It shouldn't take that long. It's a short
The dreams really can
compared to what we've just been dealing with.
yeah.
I can't.
So,
wait
if you want to
see my
catch more of the
true
Nemesis Project, type in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Red Circle. Also on YouTube, which we are live streaming there right now. If you type in Nemesis Project, you get to see the stream that we were talking on. I have some of the gameplay. I have the
Share your screen.
non-existent
And
Resident
I'll
Evil
go over the
soundtrack in the
situation.
background going as well.
team and I were careless.
And
Yesterday,
yeah,
we took
and
down the
just
Transformer
remember to
Ram.
catch us on the
But we didn't
Nemesis
kill her.
Project. Enjoyed talking about the village, and I will be enjoying talking about Revelation 1.
Since
But
Miranda
until
could have
next time,
infected
everybody,
Ethan,
see you later.
I forcefully took him